You ever had a fake-ass Barbie knock on your door and tell you she's here to seize your shotguns while you're elbow deep in cleaning a 1940s Remington I have? And she fucked around and found out. Hit play, grab a beer, and tell me in the comments. Where the hell are you hearing this madness from today? Garage truck HOA meeting, I want to know. There's a certain kind of knock that doesn't ask permission. It demands submission. That was the sound echoing off my damn garage door that Tuesday at 3:14 p.m. sharp. I was elbow deep in gun oil cleaning my grandfather's old Remington, the one from '43 with the walnut stock and the soul of a warhorse. The smell of metal wood and grit calms me better than any shrink ever could. And then, bang, 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 that knock came down like a damn battering ram. I stood still, heart rate steady. I'd heard knocks like that in Fallujah, Kandahar, and a few places you'll never find on a map. But this one was homegrown and dumb as hell. Wiped my hands, locked the rack, checked the peephole. On my porch stood a woman who looked like she'd lost a fight with a bottle of hair bleach and a clearance rack at JCPenney. Hot pink blazer clip-on name badge clipboard clenched like she thought it gave her legal power. Behind her, some overgrown thumb in a rent-a-cop outfit that probably hadn't been washed since the Obama administration. His name tag read Troy, and he looked like the kind of guy who gets winded climbing into a pickup. I cracked the door boot, planted firm, half open, half warning. "Good afternoon, Mr. Mercer," she chirped like a damn customer service rep on too much caffeine. "I'm Brittany Crow with Enforced Sure LLC operating under Heritage Hills HOA Compliance Enforcement. We've received multiple reports regarding firearms violations on your property." She held up her clipboard like it was a goddamn federal badge. I had to actually hold back a laugh. Clipboards don't mean shit to a guy who used to train Army Rangers. I gave her a long, cold stare. And I asked. She blinked, probably surprised I wasn't immediately pissing myself in fear. "I'm going to need to inspect your firearm storage to ensure compliance with HOA regulations," she said, stepping closer. That's when I spotted the first red flag. The logo on her so-called documents was printed crooked. The official seal looked like something she bought off Etsy for $9.99. The font Arial fucking narrow. Jesus. I kept my voice level the way they teach you at Fort Benning. "Ma'am, I'm going to need to see some actual identification and proof of jurisdiction before I let anyone inside my home. HOA or not." Troy shifted behind her. He was tense, hands twitchy, like a guy who watched too many cop movies and thought standing like a brick wall made him intimidating. Brittany's expression twisted into something halfway between offended and cornered. "This is proper documentation," she snapped. "And if you refuse, we'll return with law enforcement and a court order. Trust me, Mr. Mercer, you don't want to escalate this." "Oh, honey, you just made it interesting." She thought this was a bluff-off with some suburban retiree who kept a shotgun for show. She didn't know she just knocked on the door of a man who taught interrogation resistance, who could disassemble her car with a wrench set and a blindfold, and who recognized bullshit faster than most people spotted weather changes. I stepped back, cool as steel. "I understand," I said. "You both have a good day." Then I shut the door. Didn't slam it, closed it. Controlled. Silent. Like a man loading a round he ain't sure he'll fire just yet. But I sure as hell wasn't done. I didn't even wait for their piece of crap sedan to clear the curb before I was on the phone. "Eleanor, it's Cole," I said as soon as she picked up. "You got a minute?" Eleanor Green, my neighbor across the street. 73 years old, sharp as a damn scalpel. Retired county clerk who knows more about local law than most of the jokers in the courthouse today. If anyone knew what the hell Enforced Sure LLC was, it'd be her. They said what she asked after I explained. I could hear her inhale like someone just told her Elvis walked into the grocery store. "Cole, sweetheart, we don't have HOA enforcement officers. Never did. And that woman. That sounds like Brittany Crow. She pulled the same scam in Pine Valley last year, got chased out by the real sheriff. Tried to find a disabled vet for owning a flagpole, that was it. Confirmation. This wasn't some HOA overreach, it was a scam. A goddamn targeted operation. I thanked Eleanor, hung up, and sat down at my kitchen table like it was a damn war room. Grabbed my laptop, opened a secure browser, and got to work. Thanks to my time training rangers on document fraud and threat recognition, I knew exactly where to dig. And what I found, Brittany Crow had a trail of trash behind her that stretched back a decade. License suspended as a real estate agent after falsifying property disclosures. Multiple bankruptcies, over $200K in debt. 3 false ATF reports in 6 months, all targeting legal gun owners. Each one investigated, dismissed as false, and quietly filed away. And her sidekick, Troy Bennett, fired from 3 private security gigs for excessive force. Currently on probation for assaulting someone at a karaoke bar. Real class act. Bonus, he was also listed as her domestic partner on an old business registry. So not only were these 2 fakes, they were also desperate, the most dangerous kind of predator. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the wall. This wasn't just a grift. It was a hunt. They were targeting veterans, preying on the assumption we had gun collections and hoping we'd be too proud or too careful to question what looked official enough. Well, they picked the wrong goddamn ranger. The next day, I adjusted my garage routine, started moving slower, blocking line of sight to my gear, keeping anything valuable off camera. Not because I was scared they already saw what they needed to, but because I'd found it. A micro camera no bigger than a nickel wedged behind my air filter. Amateur placement, cheap make, easily bought online. The kind stalkers use when they don't know how to actually do recon. They'd been watching me, learning my habits, mapping my shit. I didn't remove it. I left it right where it was. And while they watched me, I set the trap. I called the number on Brittany's business card. Left a message nice and sweet. "Hi, this is Cole Mercer. I've been thinking about what you said the other day. I'd like to comply with the HOA inspection after all. This Saturday would work. Let's get this cleared up." See, I wasn't just going to expose them, I was going to bury them. In the Army, we don't wait for the enemy to strike first. We set the ambush. That was the play now. Saturday at 10:00 a.m., Brittany was coming back to my house thinking she had the upper hand, thinking I was some nervous homeowner finally bending the knee to fake HOA law. What she didn't know, I'd spent the last 48 hours turning my place into a goddamn kill box. Not literally, but close. 3 cameras, 1 above the porch light, 1 angled from the oak tree across the street, 1 inside the foyer, hidden behind my grandfather's old Uyoxibai shadow box. All synced to local and cloud storage. Audio 2, directional mics. 1 inside the vent above the front hallway, the other taped under the coffee table dead center. I wasn't just going to expose these clowns. I was going to document them with the kind of precision that'd make a military SIGINT team proud. And just to make sure the icing was right on the cake, Eleanor was on board. "Cole, honey. I've waited 30 years to be part of a sting op," she said, grinning like a teenager with her first pocket knife. I printed her out a copy of the real Heritage Hills HOA bylaws and told her to come by mid-inspection right when the dumbasses were neck-deep in their scam. She was giddy. Actually giddy. She even brought cookies. Tactical cookies. Full tray. Chocolate chip with walnut. Then came Saturday. Clear skies. October chill, coffee in hand. I stood in my garage cleaning the Remington again, because ritual matters, and waited. 10 a.m. sharp, like I knew she would. The beat-up sedan rolled into the driveway like a turd on 4 wheels. Brittany stepped out first, wearing a navy blue blazer now upgraded from discount Barbie to dollar store cop. Fake badge, fake clipboard, fake everything. She even had a fake utility belt with a flashlight and zip ties like she was starring in a low-budget mall security drama. Behind her, Troy. Still trying to look intimidating, still failing. This time he brought reinforcements, a confused couple mid-20s deer in headlights energy. They wore HOA compliance shirts that looked freshly printed at a strip mall. Total rookies. I opened the door before they knocked. "Morning," I said, stepping aside like I was just another guy trying to avoid a fine. Mr. Mercer Brittany beamed, clipboard in hand. "Thank you for agreeing to cooperate. We'll begin the inspection now." She stepped in like she owned the place. Mistake number one. Before we begin, I said keeping my voice easy, I'd like to record everything, just to have a personal copy for my records. Her smile cracked. Troy immediately puffed up. That won't be necessary, he said, stepping forward like he thought I'd back down. This is an active compliance review. Recordings are prohibited under regulation. Texas is a one-party consent state, I cut in. I know the law. I teach the damn law. So unless you're packing a real badge and a federal warrant, I'm going to go ahead and press record. And I did. Big red button. Blinking light. Let the theater begin. Troy stepped forward like he was about to start something. I shifted my weight just enough to square up. Not a threat, just a reminder. He wasn't the only one in the room who knew how to handle himself. The ranger in me was already counting angles, exits, threats. In the field, we called it 360 degrees of fuck around and find out. But instead of a flashbang, I had something better. I hit the record button on my phone, slid it onto the entryway table, blinking red. Let's get this over with, Brittany said, pushing her way past me with that clipboard like it was the Constitution. Per HOA Directive 4.3, we'll need visual confirmation of all firearms ammo storage and compliance locks. I played dumb. Let her think she had control. That's a lot of policy for a neighborhood HOA, I said. You folks write that up after a wine night. She gave a stiff laugh and turned to the two poor souls trailing her Mike and Sarah. Early 20s, dressed in brand new polo shirts with the Enforced Sure logo half peeling off. The girl looked scared. The guy looked confused. You two start taking inventory, Brittany ordered. Document everything of value. We'll add it to the incident report. Sarah raised her hand like she was in school. Are we allowed to go into the bedrooms? That wasn't in the job description. You'll do what I tell you, Brittany snapped. Wrong move. Mike looked at me. Sir, is this legit? We thought we were doing insurance work. I nodded slightly. You're fine. Just stay right there and don't touch anything. You're witnesses now. Brittany spun furious. They work for me. This is an HOA operation. You have no lady, I said calmly. You're in my goddamn house waving fake paper around and barking orders like this is North Korea. I've seen real inspections. This ain't one. She tried to hold her ground. Tried. But then the front door creaked open. Cole Sweetie came a voice like southern honey mixed with sharpened steel. I brought those HOA documents you asked for. Eleanor, retired clerk, 73. Smarter than any lawyer I've ever met and tougher than half the Marines I trained. She stepped inside like she was walking into church. Floral blouse, folder thick as a Bible, glasses on a chain, but her eyes were laser-focused. Oh my, she said as she took in the scene. Am I interrupting a sting operation? Brittany flinched. Ma'am, this is a private inspection. You need to leave immediately or risk obstruction. Eleanor just smiled, flipping open her folder. Do you have your license number, dear? Or your bond certificate? Or let me guess your imaginary compliance badge. She turned to me. Cole, I checked the business registry this morning. Enforced Sure. LLC is listed as a home decor service, home ornaments advisory. They legally can't perform inspections or issue citations. I smirked. And yet here they are, walking around my house, demanding $8,000. That hit. Mike's eyes widened. Sarah looked like she was going to throw up. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to step outside, Troy said, putting a hand on his hip like he thought there was a badge there. Spoiler, there wasn't. Eleanor raised an eyebrow. You try to touch me, young man, and I will drop you with my purse. It's got a brick in the bottom for just such occasions. She wasn't joking. Anyway, she continued opening her folder per the real bylaws of Heritage Hills. HOA inspections must be requested in writing with 72 hours notice, performed only by licensed professionals and cannot include personal valuables. Brittany was seething now. But Troy, he broke. She wrote scripts for us, he blurted, told us what to say. Said people would pay just to make us go away. It was supposed to be easy money. I couldn't help myself. Damn, man. Snitching this early in the interrogation, I didn't even offer you coffee. Shut the hell up, Troy. Brittany screamed, but it was over. Mike stepped away, hands up. We didn't know, I swear. She posted the job on Craigslist, said it was legal. Sarah was already dialing someone, probably her mom, or her lawyer, or both. And me, I just sipped my coffee and waited. Because right on cue, sirens, wailing like a banshee choir. Coming closer. You called the cops. Brittany shrieked. Eleanor smiled. About 20 minutes ago, right after I saw your janky-ass car in Cole's driveway. You should have parked farther down the street. Tires screeched outside, flashing lights filled the front windows, and then front door opened. Officer Rick Mallister. 6'2", barrel chest, buzz cut, ex-Marine. Walked in like he was returning to a bar he once cleared in a brawl. Afternoon, folks, he said. Mind telling me what in the absolute hell is going on here? Brittany rushed forward. Officer. Thank God. This man attacked my staff and is hoarding illegal firearms. Mallister didn't even look at her. His eyes were on me. Wait a second, he said, pointing. You're Mercer, right, Cole? Mercer Ranger instructor down at Benning. I nodded. Damn, I sat in on your document fraud workshop in 16. You taught us how to spot fake IDs from 6 feet away. He turned to Brittany. You sure this is the guy running a crime ring? She stuttered. I have a court order, she shouted, pulling out a folder like it was the Ark of the Covenant. Mallister opened it, looked at the font, laughed. Comic Sans lady. I've seen grocery lists with more legal authority. He flipped to the signature. Judge Thompson. We don't even have a Judge Thompson. This county only has Martinez, Johnson, and Wu. Nice try. Brittany was melting. Mike and Sarah were backed against the wall like they were watching a hostage negotiation. Troy tried to step out. Mallister grabbed him by the collar and slammed cuffs on him like he was bagging groceries. Hands where I can see 'em, the officer barked. Brittany shrieked again, but this time she didn't sound confident. She sounded desperate. This is a mistake. I have evidence I've filed complaints with the ATF. That was her second mistake, because then came the knock. Not the HOA kind, the federal kind. You ever plan an ambush with tea in one hand and a neighborhood map in the other? Because that's exactly what I was doing that Thursday night, while Eleanor passed me oatmeal cookies like I was plotting to take back Fallujah. Sugar, she said, pointing with a Sharpie at her hand-drawn diagram of Heritage Hills. They like to park here just between the mailboxes and the dog poop bag station. Ain't no cameras over there. I'll fix that, I muttered. 2 Arlo Pro 5S with night vision. One wide angle, one focused tight on the curb. I wasn't planning a neighborhood watch, I was planning a goddamn sting. See, after the first confrontation, I knew Brittany and Troy weren't done. People like that don't quit when they're exposed, they escalate. Grifters don't admit defeat, they double down. And the look Brittany gave me when she stormed off that day, that wasn't fear, that was calculation. She'd be back. So I did what any former Army Ranger does when he knows trouble's coming. I built a perimeter, hardened my defense, and baited the hook. First step. Optics. I made it look like I was scared. Played it subtle. Covered the windows with blackout curtains, stopped cleaning guns in the open garage, left boxes marked safe content sitting out in plain view. Let them think I was sloppy. Let them get greedy. Second step. Tech. Eleanor and I set up 3 high-def cameras around the property, including one inside the gutter drain. Yeah, I weaponized a rain pipe. You serve 12 years in the Army, and you start seeing every shadow as a sensor mount. Audio mics, pressure plates, motion sensors sync to my phone. If a squirrel farted too hard on my porch, I'd know about it. Third step. Bait. I called the number on the fake HOA card Brittany had left behind. "This is Cole Mercer," I said into the voicemail. "I've thought about our last conversation. I'd like to comply. Can we set up a final inspection Saturday morning? I'll have all documentation ready and payment in cash. Let's get this resolved." I hung up, then waited. Friday, 7:42 p.m. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Text only. "Be ready 10 a.m. sharp. Bring cash. Compliance inspection required. Failure. Legal action." Translation: they were coming, and they thought I was buying it. Poor bastards. Saturday morning arrived like a damn funeral. Cold. Quiet. Still. I was already geared up. Not militarized, this was still the neighborhood, not Kandahar, but tactical. Jeans, boots concealed mic backup cam in my shirt button. Eleanor was across the street with binoculars, hot coffee, and her ancient walkie-talkie from the 90s. "This thing still works," she'd said. Used it to bust teens smoking pot in the gazebo back in '07. At exactly 10:00 a.m., a beat-up Toyota Camry with duct tape on the bumper and zero shame in its suspension pulled into my driveway. Out stepped Brittany. New outfit, navy blue power suit like she'd watched one episode of Law & Order and thought she was Olivia Benson. Behind her, Troy with mirrored sunglasses and a utility belt, so fake it still had the price tag hanging off it. Two new folks, too young, early 20s, visibly nervous. Mike and Sarah, round two. She brought backup again. Civilians, props, fall guys. God, she was predictable. Mr. Mercer, Brittany called out, clipboard in hand, like it was a weapon. "We're here for your final compliance inspection. You've agreed to cooperate and settle the outstanding fee." I opened the door, gave her my best smile. "Of course," I said calmly. "I've got the cash right here. Come on in." And that's when I sprang the trap. They walked into my house like they owned the damn zip code. Brittany, first heels clicking on my hardwood like war drums. She carried herself like she was about to bust a meth lab, not shake down a high school teacher. Troy followed, chest-puffed eyes hidden behind dollar store aviators, belt sagging under the weight of exactly zero actual authority. Mike and Sarah came, last hesitant, like kids dragged into the principal's office for something they didn't do. I motioned them inside. Calm, professional, cold. Like I wasn't about to blow up their entire goddamn operation. So Brittany began flipping open her clipboard. "Let's begin the compliance inspection. Please present your firearms documentation, storage layout, and the agreed $8,000 of processing fee." That's when I tilted my head, smiled just enough, and said, "Actually, before we start, I'd like to record this for my records. You know, for legal transparency." Troy puffed up. "That won't be necessary," he growled. Hand twitching near his knockoff utility belt like he thought he was the sheriff of Bullshit County. "Actually, I cut in voice flat Texas is a one-party consent state. I have the legal right to record anything that happens in my own home." I held up my phone. Flashing red light. Already rolling. Brittany's smile twitched. That was mistake number one. "Fine," she snapped. "Let's just proceed. Show us the weapons." I nodded, led them into the garage. All of it had been prepped: the camera in the corner, the wireless mic above the tool rack, the backup feed to a drive in my attic. I opened the safe. There they were. My grandfather's collection. Legal, registered, cleaned so well they could pass a white glove inspection. Brittany pretended to check a box on her clipboard. "We'll also need to catalog all other valuables on the premises per subsection 3B of the Heritage Hills HOA bylaws." I raised an eyebrow. "Subsection 3B doesn't exist." "Excuse me," she snapped. I said, "That subsection doesn't fucking exist. I've read every page of the HOA bylaws, and the only regulation about property inspections states that they must be requested in writing 72 hours in advance by a licensed third-party inspector." She froze. Mistake number two. That's when Eleanor walked in. Without knocking, without announcing, without giving a single damn. She strolled in like she owned the goddamn zip code. Sorry to barge in sugar, she said, holding up a manila folder thick enough to choke a horse. Brought those real HOA documents you asked for. She spotted Brittany and gave her a slow, pitying smile. Oh, you again. Brittany turned on her furious. You have no legal right to be here. This is a sanctioned investigation. Eleanor cut her off with the most savage grandma line I've ever heard, sweetheart. I spent 30 years in the Travis County Courthouse. If this is a real investigation, then I'm Dolly Parton. I almost laughed, but I didn't have to. Troy cracked first. This is getting out of hand. Britt, he muttered. He's setting us up. No, he's bluffing. Brittany barked. He can't prove anything. That's when I turned and pointed at the red light still blinking on my phone. I've been recording since you stepped on my porch. Mike and Sarah looked mortified. Troy looked like he was reconsidering life choices that went back to puberty. Brittany went full meltdown. You can't use that? It's entrapment. Eleanor chuckled darkly. No, honey. Entrapment is when cops force you to commit a crime. What you did was volunteer to play HOA Barbie with fake papers and a clipboard from Dollar Tree. Mistake number 3, she lost her composure, and that's when the sirens hit. Flash. Blue and red lights spilled through my front window like a Christmas tree of justice. 3 sheriff cruisers, 1 unmarked, all rolling in hot. Brittany turned ghost white. What did you do? She hissed. I didn't say a word. Didn't have to. Eleanor pulled out her phone and tapped it once. I called them 15 minutes ago. Figured this circus needed an audience. Deputies stormed in like clockwork. One of them, Deputy Santiago 6'3", ex-Marine, locked eyes with me and nodded. Mr. Mercer? Yes, sir. We've received reports of attempted fraud impersonation and unlawful surveillance. Mind if we have a look at your security footage? I handed him a flash drive. Preloaded. Date stamped. Time coded. He plugged it into his cruiser outside. 10 minutes later, he walked back in with a face like stone. Miss Crow, Troy Bennett. You're both under arrest for felony impersonation fraud, attempted extortion, and illegal surveillance. Mike and Sarah were frozen. I raised a hand. They were duped. I've got full audio. They thought they were working for a legit company. Deputy nodded. We'll take their statements. Likely victims, not suspects. Troy didn't resist. He dropped like a sack of failure. Brittany, she screamed, like a banshee, like a demon. Like a suburban Karen finally realizing the coupon doesn't work and the cops aren't on her side. This is a setup. I'm a whistleblower. I'm exposing illegal weapons. Santiago read her Miranda rights over the sound of her voice cracking. I swear, if Poetic Justice had a ringtone, it'd be that. By noon, the cuffs were on. By dusk, the footage was in the DA's hands. By midnight, the HOA board voted unanimously to hire me as their permanent security consultant. Eleanor celebrated by baking a batch of go-to-jail cookies, and I cleaned my Remington, cracked a beer, and smiled like a man who just pulled off the cleanest op since Baghdad. You ever plan an ambush with tea in one hand and a neighborhood map in the other? Because that's exactly what I was doing. That Thursday night, while Eleanor passed me oatmeal cookies like I was plotting to take back Fallujah. Sugar, she said, pointing with a Sharpie at her hand-drawn diagram of Heritage Hills. They like to park here, just between the mailboxes and the dog poop bag station. Ain't no cameras over there. I'll fix that, I muttered. 2 Arlo Pro 5s with night vision, 1 wide angle, 1 focused tight on the curb. I wasn't planning a neighborhood watch. I was planning a goddamn sting. See, after the first confrontation, I knew Brittany and Troy weren't done. People like that don't quit when they're exposed, they escalate. Grifters don't admit defeat, they double down. And the look Brittany gave me when she stormed off that day. That wasn't fear, that was calculation. She'd be back. So I did what any former Army Ranger does when he knows trouble's coming. I built a perimeter, hardened my defense, and baited the hook. First step, optics. I made it look like I was scared, played it subtle, covered the windows with blackout curtains, stopped cleaning guns in the open garage, left boxes marked safe contents sitting out into plain view. Let them think I was sloppy. Let them get greedy. Second step. Tech. Eleanor and I set up 3 high-def cameras around the property, including one inside the gutter drain. Yeah, I weaponized a rain pipe. You serve 12 years in the Army and you start seeing every shadow as a sensor mount. Audio mics, pressure plates, motion sensors sync to my phone. If a squirrel farted too hard on my porch, I'd know about it. Third step bait. I called the number on the fake HOA card Brittany had left behind. "This is Cole Mercer," I said into the voicemail. "I've thought about our last conversation. I'd like to comply. Can we set up a final inspection Saturday morning? I'll have all documentation ready and payment in cash. Let's get this resolved." I hung up, then waited. Friday 7:42 p.m. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Text only. Be ready 10 a.m. sharp. Bring cash. Compliance inspection required. Failure, channel legal action. Translation. They were coming, and they thought I was buying it. Poor bastards. Saturday morning arrived like a damn funeral, cold, quiet, still. I was already geared up. Not militarized, this was still a neighborhood, not Kandahar, but tactical. Jeans boots concealed mic backup cam in my shirt button. Eleanor was across the street with binoculars, hot coffee, and her ancient walkie-talkie from the 90s. "This thing still works," she'd said. "Used it to bust teens smoking pot in the gazebo back in '07. At exactly 10:00 a.m., a beat-up Toyota Camry with duct tape on the bumper and zero shame in its suspension pulled into my driveway. Out stepped Brittany. New outfit. Navy blue power suit like she'd watched one episode of Law & Order and thought she was Olivia Benson. Behind her, Troy with mirrored sunglasses and a utility belt so fake it still had the price tag hanging off it. 2 new folks, 2 young early 20s, visibly nervous. Mike and Sarah round 2. She brought backup again. Civilians, props, fall guys. God, she was predictable. Mr. Mercer Brittany called out, clipboard in hand, like it was a weapon. "We're here for your final compliance inspection. You've agreed to cooperate and settle the outstanding fee." I opened the door, gave her my best smile. "Of course," I said calmly. "I've got the cash right here." "Come on in." And that's when I sprang the trap. They walked into my house like they owned the damn zip code. Brittany first heels clicking on my hardwood like war drums. She carried herself like she was about to bust a meth lab, not shake down a high school teacher. Troy followed, chest-puffed eyes hidden behind dollar store aviators, belt sagging under the weight of exactly 0 actual authority. Mike and Sarah came, last hesitant like kids dragged into the principal's office for something they didn't do. I motioned them inside. Calm, professional, cold. Like I wasn't about to blow up their entire goddamn operation. So Brittany began flipping open her clipboard. "Let's begin the compliance inspection. Please present your firearms documentation, storage layout, and the agreed $8,000 processing fee." That's when I tilted my head, smiled just enough, and said, "Actually, before we start, I'd like to record this for my records." "You know, for legal transparency." Troy puffed up. "That won't be necessary." He growled, hand twitching near his knockoff utility belt, like he thought he was the sheriff of Bullshit County. Actually, I cut in voice flat Texas is a one-party consent state. I have the legal right to record anything that happens in my own home. I held up my phone, flashing red light already rolling. Brittany's smile twitched. That was mistake number 1. "Fine," she snapped. "Let's just proceed. Show us the weapons." I nodded, led them into the garage. All of it had been prepped: the camera in the corner, the wireless mic above the tool rack, the backup feed to a drive in my attic. I opened the safe. There they were. My grandfather's collection, legal, registered. Cleaned so well they could pass a white glove inspection. Brittany pretended to check a box on her clipboard. We'll also need to catalog all other valuables on the premises per subsection 3B of the Heritage Hills HOA bylaws. I raised an eyebrow. Subsection 3B doesn't exist. Excuse me, she snapped. I said, that subsection doesn't fucking exist. I've read every page of the HOA bylaws, and the only regulation about property inspections states that they must be requested in writing 72 hours in advance by a licensed third-party inspector. She froze. Mistake number 2. That's when Eleanor walked in. Without knocking. Without announcing. Without giving a single damn. She strolled in like she owned the goddamn zip code. Sorry to barge in sugar, she said, holding up a manila folder thick enough to choke a horse. Brought those real HOA documents you asked for. She spotted Brittany and gave her a slow, pitying smile. Oh. You again? Brittany turned on her furious. You have no legal right to be here. This is a sanctioned investigation. Eleanor cut her off with the most savage grandma line I've ever heard, sweetheart. I spent 30 years in the Travis County Courthouse. If this is a real investigation, then I'm Dolly Parton. I almost laughed, but I didn't have to. Troy cracked first. This is getting out of hand? Britt, he muttered. He's setting us up. No, he's bluffing. Brittany barked. He can't prove anything. That's when I turned and pointed at the red light still blinking on my phone. I've been recording since you stepped on my porch. Mike and Sarah looked mortified. Troy looked like he was reconsidering life choices that went back to puberty. Brittany went full meltdown. Yeah, you can't use that. It's entrapment. Eleanor chuckled darkly. No, honey. Entrapment is when cops force you to commit a crime. What you did was volunteer to play HOA Barbie with fake papers and a clipboard from Dollar Tree. Mistake number 3, she lost her composure, and that's when the sirens hit. Flash. Blue and red lights spilled through my front window like a Christmas tree of justice. 3 sheriff cruisers, 1 unmarked, all rolling in hot. Brittany turned ghost white. What did you do? She hissed. I didn't say a word. Didn't have to. Eleanor pulled out her phone and tapped it once. I called them 15 minutes ago. Figured this circus needed an audience. Deputies stormed in like clockwork. One of them, Deputy Santiago 6'3", ex-Marine, locked eyes with me and nodded. Mr. Mercer? Yes, sir. We've received reports of attempted fraud impersonation and unlawful surveillance. Mind if we have a look at your security footage? I handed him a flash drive. Preloaded. Date stamped. Time coded. He plugged it into his cruiser outside. 10 minutes later, he walked back in with a face like stone. Miss Crow Troy Bennett, you're both under arrest for felony impersonation fraud, attempted extortion, and illegal surveillance. Mike and Sarah were frozen. I raised a hand. They were duped. I've got full audio. They thought they were working for a legit company. Deputy nodded. We'll take their statements. Likely victims, not suspects. Troy didn't resist. He dropped like a sack of failure. Brittany, she screamed. Like a banshee, like a demon. Like a suburban Karen finally realizing the coupon doesn't work and the cops aren't on her side. This is a setup. I'm a whistleblower. I'm exposing illegal weapons. Santiago read her Miranda rights over the sound of her voice cracking. I swear, if Poetic Justice had a ringtone, it'd be that. By noon, the cuffs were on. By dusk, the footage was in the DA's hands. By midnight, the HOA board voted unanimously to hire me as their permanent security consultant. Eleanor celebrated by baking a batch of go-to-jail cookies, and I cleaned my Remington, cracked a beer, and smiled like a man who just pulled off the cleanest op since Baghdad. 3 hours after Brittany and Troy got hauled away, I was back in the garage wiping down my Remington like it was Sunday in boot camp. Then came the knock. This time, it wasn't frantic. It wasn't fake authority aggressive. It was 3 precise taps calculated clean. Military if you know what to listen for. I opened the door and saw two men in suits. Black SUV parked outside. Government plates, serious faces, sunglasses not just for show. One of them older, graying, built like a guy who hadn't skipped arm day since the Reagan administration flashed a badge. Special Agent Williams ATF. He nodded to the younger one beside him. This is Agent Barrett. Barrett. That name hit something in the back of my brain. Familiar. Then it clicked. Barrett, I said slowly. Mike Barrett Fort Benning. 2013, you were in my document security course. He smiled. Damn, sir, I was hoping you'd remember. I laughed once, then stepped aside. Come in, gentlemen. We've got a hell of a story to walk through. Agent Williams was all business. We received an alert from the sheriff's department about a fraud operation using fake HOA enforcement as cover. Your name came up. Seems you've already done half our job for us. I handed him the flash drive, another copy I'd prepped. Here's everything: surveillance footage, audio recordings, digital scans of their fake documents, and a list of timestamps. Williams whistled low. You run a private firm? Nope, I said. Just trained the U.S. Army Rangers for 12 years. Agent Barrett let out a short laugh. Told you he was the real deal. We spent the next hour going over every detail. I showed them the camera I found behind my air filter. Walked them through the pattern approach, threat intimidation, bogus inspection fee, and then I dropped the bomb. They've been doing this to other people. Eleanor says at least one other neighborhood, Pine Valley, had the same run-in. And Troy, the dipshit with the utility belt, said, there's a list, a full list of targets. Williams didn't even blink. Do you know where it's kept? I nodded. Troy mentioned a storage unit off Riverside Drive. Barrett was already on his phone calling in a team. Bet you $20 we find photo schedules, maybe even fake IDs in that unit. Make it 50, I said. You're going to find way more than that. 10 minutes later, we were in the back of the black SUV headed to the location. The unit was locked, but Williams didn't even flinch. One flash of his badge and the facility manager looked ready to crap himself. They popped the lock, and what we found, holy shit. Boxes stacked to the ceiling, each labeled by hand. Heritage Pine Valley Oak Ridge Military. High value inside printed photos of homes. Scribbled notes, vet. Seen gun case in garage, bank records. HOA rosters, fake letters. Even mock court orders with Comic Sans still proudly marching across the headers. Williams held one up with a disgusted look. Jesus, this is amateur hour, but ambitious. Worse, I said. It's targeted. They're profiling veterans, figuring we'd be armed, proud, and hesitant to call attention. Barrett shook his head. This isn't just fraud. This is predatory, and possibly federal conspiracy. Williams called it in. And just like that, it went from a neighborhood squabble to a multi-jurisdictional federal case. I stood outside the storage unit, wind in my face, and felt that old familiar buzz again. The buzz you get right before the mission flips in your favor. When all the months of prep training, sweat, and instinct lead to one perfect moment. This wasn't just revenge, this was justice. And we were just getting started. Back at my place, Eleanor was already 3 cookies deep into a victory snack when the ATF team returned. Williams walked in like a judge entering court. Calm, silent, and with a goddamn hammer behind his eyes. He dropped a thick folder on my kitchen table. Mr. Mercer, he said, you've officially helped crack open what may be the largest HOA scam ring operating in 3 counties. Barrett added, they weren't just going after gun owners, they were after military families' retirees, anyone with high-value gear. Eleanor leaned back, arms crossed like she'd just caught the neighborhood kids breaking her ceramic gnome. So, what now, she asked. Williams replied with the kind of cold certainty I've only heard from high-ranking officers. Now we bring them all the way down. An hour later, we were sitting across from Brittany and Troy in separate ATF interview rooms. Glass walls, cold lighting, federal silence. Troy was already cracking like a gas station burrito. She made me do it, he mumbled. Said she used to be a real agent, that it was a gray area. I didn't know she was filing federal reports. Agent Barrett raised an eyebrow. You impersonated an officer, planted surveillance cameras, and threatened people for money. That ain't gray. That's black-letter felony. Then came Brittany, and holy hell, she was still trying to act like she had control. I'm a whistleblower, she barked, tossing her fried printed evidence folder across the table. I've filed complaints with the ATF. I have rights. Williams picked up the folder like it was soaked in sewage. Comic Sans again, he muttered. You really committed to that font, huh? He flipped a few pages and looked up at her, dead serious. You filed 4 false reports to a federal agency. 1 under a fake name. 1 with a misspelled judge's title. You want to guess how many years in prison that adds up to? Her lips trembled. Eleanor, watching through the observation window, whispered under her breath. That's the face of a woman realizing her clipboard won't save her ass. Back home, I debriefed with Barrett. You know, he said sipping a weak cup of Eleanor's decaf you ever wanted to work fed you'd make a damn good field agent. I shrugged. I spent 12 years training warriors, not babysitting clowns. He grinned. Fair. 2 weeks later, the county DA issued an indictment. 17 counts, across 3 counties. Felony impersonation, wire fraud, surveillance crimes. False reports, conspiracy to defraud criminal enterprise. Brittany was done. Troy took a plea deal. Mike and Sarah gave full statements and were cleared. And me, I got a call from the HOA. We'd like to offer you the role of community security advisor, they said. Comes with a small stipend and your pick of HOA-approved bourbon at the annual meeting. I said yes. Hell, after that circus, a man deserves a little bourbon. That night, I stood on my porch. Cold beer. Clean conscience. One hand on the rail, the other holding my Remington. And I thought to myself, let 'em come again. I've got eyes on the lawn, ears on the walls, and the law in my goddamn corner. Because out here in Heritage Hills, we don't play pretend. And if you come knocking with fake badges and plastic clipboards, you better pray to God I'm not home. I always thought justice would feel clean. Like in those legal dramas where the bad guy gets hauled away, the music swells, and the credits roll. But in real life, justice is messy, slow, and leaves a trail of paperwork that smells like burnt toner and cheap politics. It started with a letter. A real one, not some Comic Sans bootleg from eBay. From the State Attorney General's office. Mr. Cole Mercer, you are hereby recognized as a material witness and civilian contributor in an ongoing multi-county investigation involving fraud, impersonation, and targeted criminal enterprise against military families. Your cooperation has directly prevented further harm. I stared at it, beer in one hand, letter in the other. I'm a goddamn civilian contributor now, I muttered. Eleanor snorted from across the table. And I will. Darling, they should be sending you a medal and a goddamn fruit basket. The media got wind of it next. Local news first, then national outlets. Apparently, fake HOA cop tries to seize veterans' guns, gets caught by his own surveillance, makes for a hell of a headline. Fox News, CNN, even one of those true crime podcasts that plays spooky music behind every sentence, they all wanted interviews. I gave them one. Just one. Dressed in jeans boots and a clean shirt that still smelled like the inside of a gun safe. And when the host asked me what I thought of Brittany's HOA enforcement division, I leaned in and said, lady showed up with a clipboard and a costume badge. I've seen better ops run by middle school hall monitors. That line went viral. Meanwhile, Brittany was breaking down like a Walmart tent in a hurricane. Under the weight of federal charges and with every shady detail of her operation, surfacing from falsified documents to weaponized inspections to extorting elderly vets, her lawyer finally cut a deal. 3 years federal time. Restitution of $180,000. Prohibited from working in real estate law enforcement or any HOA ever again. Troy got 18 months, with a restraining order so tight he can't step within 500 feet of anything with the letters HOA on it. They also found 5 more potential victims in counties she hadn't hit yet. almost like we caught her right before she scaled this to a statewide racket. Back in Heritage Hills, the fallout hit like shockwaves. The HOA board was in full panic mode. We never approved any external compliance inspections. We had no idea this group even existed. How did she even get our resident list? I'll tell you how. Negligence. That board had been running on coffee HOA fees and blind trust for a decade. Brittany just figured out how to slide in through the cracks and exploit every single weak link. So I showed up at the next meeting. Not as a guest, as their newly appointed security consultant. I stood in front of the board 5 middle-aged suburbanites who'd never seen a real op outside of Pinterest. And I laid it out like a field report. Your neighborhood got infiltrated. Your residents got profiled. Your trust got weaponized. I dropped the photos, the fake paperwork, and the blueprint of Brittany's whole scam on the table. Then I leaned in and said what every military vet learns by week 2: complacency kills. The day after the HOA meeting, I got a knock at the door. This time, it wasn't the clipboard brigade or 2 men in cheap suits. It was an official from the Attorney General's office and a retired colonel I hadn't seen in almost a decade. Cole Mercer, the colonel said, extending a hand. Damn fine work out here. I blinked. Colonel Hargrove from Fort Lewis. He smiled. Still remember how to brief a chain of command. I nodded once. Then sit your ass down, he said, because we've got an offer for you. Turns out the state had been looking for ways to tackle rising fraud cases targeting veterans. From fake VA claims to phone scams to HOA-style grifts just like Brittany's, it's been ramping up like a dirty war no one wants to talk about. And apparently my little garage sting had become a model case. They wanted me to consult. Design field training. Help vet local enforcement protocols. Build a task force playbook for community-level fraud detection. Wouldn't be full-time, Hargrove added, but it'd pay better than bourbon at HOA meetings. I asked for a day to think. Eleanor said, say yes, darling. You've been bored since the second you stopped yelling at recruits. She wasn't wrong. Meanwhile, back at Heritage Hills, word spread. Some folks were pissed that it got so far before anyone noticed. Others were embarrassed they'd believed Brittany's clipboard cosplay, but most. They were just damn grateful it hadn't been worse. They started coming by cookies, cigars, ammo, and thank you cards. One guy even brought me a 6-pack and a hug. And me, I just kept cleaning my Remington. Watching the trees sway, making sure no one else tried to play dress-up lawman on my block. Brittany's sentencing was quiet. No press, no spectacle, just a judge, a list of charges, and a woman who'd finally run out of lies and cheap ink. I read the transcript later. Apparently, when asked if she had anything to say before sentencing, she whispered, I was just trying to build something. To which the judge replied, you did. You built a goddamn criminal enterprise. A week later, I signed the state contract. Security consultant fraud prevention strategist. I printed it out with my grandfather's fountain pen, ink thick and final. Just like he would have liked it. Then I hung up a wooden sign over my garage, Mercer. Community watch, no bullshit allowed. And for the first time since leaving the Army, I felt something rare. Not just pride. Purpose. That night, Eleanor dropped by with a fresh pie and a news clipping. Local vet shuts down multi-county fraud ring. The sub-headline, Clipboard Bandits No Match for U.S. Army Know-How. I laughed so hard I damn near dropped my beer. Hang that one next to your medals, she said. Hell no, I replied. That one goes on the fridge. That. You'd think that after everything, the takedown, the court case, the viral news things would quiet down. But in my world, quiet usually means someone's loading something. It was a Sunday morning, overcast. Still. I was in the garage cleaning a 45 like a man folds laundry, half focused, half meditative. That's when I heard it. A knock. Not loud, not demanding, just steady. Knock, knock, knock. I stood slowly. No adrenaline spike this time, just muscle memory kicking in like an old friend. Grabbed the Glock off the bench just in case. Opened the door. A man in a charcoal gray suit stood on my porch. Mid-40s, military bearing, eyes that didn't blink unless it mattered. He didn't smile. Mr. Mercer depends who's asking. He handed me a card. Office of Veteran Protection and Intelligence, DC. No fake font, no clip art badge. Just the real deal. I've read the report and the interviews, and I watched the footage the way you handled that situation, documented it, controlled escalation. It's field grade. I didn't respond. We have a pilot program, counter fraud veteran defense. You'd be a civilian attaché, but the boots would be real. Training, deployment, no uniforms, just results. Still silent. Think of it as your third act, Cole. After war, after neighborhood justice, this is legacy level. I looked past him out at the quiet trees of Heritage Hills. This community had almost been taken apart by clipboards and bullshit, and I'd stopped it. But this was bigger. I turned back to him. Let me guess, I said. This is the part where I say, I'm in. He smirked. No. This is the part where you ask what it pays and whether you still get to sleep in your own bed. I laughed. Both answers better be yes. They are. Then I'm listening. 3 months later, I wasn't just HOA security consultant anymore. I was also a field trainer for federal veteran fraud ops. Still in my house. Still drinking cheap beer on the porch. Still telling Eleanor everything I wasn't legally bound to keep quiet about. And Heritage Hill's still safe. Still quiet. And this time, that quiet felt earned. So, if you're watching this and wondering what to do when the clipboard mafia comes knocking, let me give it to you straight. Trust your gut. Document everything. Don't let fake power scare you out of your rights. And for the love of God, if their court order is in Comic Sans, lock your door. Call the cops. And grab your goddamn Remington. Because out here, we don't bluff, we defend, and we damn sure finish what we start. Here's the thing about power. Real power don't come with a fake badge and a clip-on tie. It comes from knowing your rights, standing your damn ground, and not letting some clipboard warrior shake you down on your own porch. I didn't spend over a decade training the best goddamn soldiers on Earth just to get punked by a Barbie with a printer. So remember this, observe, assess, act. That's how we did it in the Army. That's how I do it in my neighborhood. And if you've got a neighbor like this, you better start doing it too. Now, tell me this in the comments. What would you do if someone tried to pull this scam on your doorstep? And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button. Smash that like if you'd rather deal with a raccoon than an HOA Karen. And share this with someone who's ever been screwed over by fake authority. This is Cole Mercer. You're watching HOA Karen Files. And around here, we don't bluff. We bury bullshit. Boom. Shotgun? Loud as fuck. Damn near took my damn ear off. I hit the dirt so fast my hip cracked. Coffee went flying. Buddy lost his goddamn mind. And all I could think was, ain't this some shit? I ain't even had my fucking breakfast. I crawl behind the post near the gate, a same post I've been meaning to replace for 5 damn years, and that fucking prick Rick Lawson is standing right there, holding a 12 gauge like he's John fucking Wayne. He's screaming something. I can't hear shit. My ears are ringing like a motherfucker and my dog's barking like we're under attack. Which, I guess we were. Rick! You crazy motherfucker! I yell it straight at him. Don't even know if he hears me. I sure as hell can't hear myself. Who the hell fires a fucking shotgun at 8 in the damn morning? Oh. Right, Rick. Vice President of the Harmony Trails HOA. Drives a Prius. Tucks his t-shirts in. Probably jerks off to bylaws. And now he's on my land, trying to shoot me over goddamn nothing. 10 minutes ago, I was sitting on the porch in my boxers. Coffee in one hand. Scratching my nuts with the other. Talking to Buddy about maybe taking the old tractor out. Then, boom, out of nowhere. Some HOA nutjob pulls up with a fucking shotgun and tries to blow my head off like this is the Alamo. No knock. No warning. Just gunfire. I ain't even mad yet. I'm still trying to figure out what the actual fuck just happened. Then I hear the sirens. Yep. Rick called the damn cops on me. Probably told him I was shooting up the whole county, or cooking meth, or running a terrorist camp, or whatever the hell them HOA types think ranchers do out here. But you know what? Let me back this shit up, because I bet you're wondering why some HOA dickhead just tried to turn me into mulch on a Tuesday. Well, grab a beer. This story's fucking long, and it only gets dumber from here. Boom. That son of a bitch actually fired. I heard it before I even saw the flash. Felt the air punch past my ear like a goddamn wasp at Mach 3. Dirt kicked up right next to my goddamn face. My coffee exploded across the porch. Buddy near shat himself, and I hit the deck faster than I've moved in 20 goddamn years. 64 years old. Bad hip. Bad back what in the ever-loving fuck. And there he was, Rick fucking Lawson, standing at the edge of my goddamn couldn't age. But one thing was for sure, that shot wasn't no warning. That motherfucker meant it. 10 minutes earlier, I was standing on my porch, half awake, scratching my nuts and sipping black coffee. Buddy laying next to me, lazy as ever, was about to toss on my boots and check the east fence line. Maybe haul some hay if my back didn't bitch too much. A normal Tuesday on the ranch. And now I'm ducking behind a fucking fence post while HOA Rick turns my front yard into the OK Corral. Rick, you crazy bastard, I shouted, voice rough as gravel. You just tried to kill me. He screamed something back, but it was lost in the ringing. Buddy was barking like hell. Tail low. Ears flat. Dogs got better instincts than most people. And me, I was lying there, unarmed. My Glock was on the damn porch, 5 feet away, sitting in the drawer under my busted lawn chair. Did I go for it? Hell no, I ain't stupid. Not anymore. Cops show up and I got a gun in my hand. Guess who gets a bullet to the skull and a name misspelled on the evening news? Yeah, not fucking Rick. And wouldn't you know it, just as my brain catches up to the fact that I almost just got my shit blown out the back of my skull, I hear the sirens. Faint, but coming fast. Red and blue start bouncing off the trees, gravel crunching under tires. The cavalry's on the way, only I ain't sure if they're showing up to help me or arrest me. That's when it hit me like a cold slap. If they believe him, I'm screwed, so I stay low. Hands out, no sudden moves. Just me, the dog, a ruined cup of coffee, and a neighbor with a shotgun and a god complex. Let me back up, because you're probably wondering how a guy like Rick, buttoned-up HOA pencil pusher, ends up pulling a trigger on a 64-year-old veteran before breakfast. Here's how. 3 months ago, I came back home. Not home like suburb shit. I mean real dirt and diesel home. My Uncle Clay Pass dropped dead in his barn with a hammer in one hand and a mouthful of chew. Man died the way he lived, sweaty, pissed, and productive. Left me the ranch. 17 acres of dry Texas land. Beat-up tractors. An old barn held together with wire and spite. And a dog with more mileage than a Ford F-150. I hadn't been back in 20 years. I was Army all the way motor pool chief. 3 tours, 2 blown-out knees, and 1 honorable discharge. Lived out of bags and bunks longer than most people stay married. So when Clay passed and I saw the deed in my name, shit, I figured, why not finally get some peace? Chop wood, fix shit, sit on my porch and cuss at birds. And for the first few weeks, it was heaven. Me and Buddy got a routine. Mornings on the porch, afternoons fixing whatever Clay duct taped instead of replacing. Evenings with a cold Lone Star and a view of the kind of Sky City folks pay to see in calendars. I even set up a little shooting area behind the barn. Nothing fancy, just a few plywood targets and a dirt mound. Ain't like I was building a fucking sniper nest. Then came the envelope. No stamp. No name. Just typed like a goddamn parking ticket and shoved in my gate. Firearm activity reported on your premises. This property is now under Harmony Trails HOA oversight. Cease all activity immediately or face legal consequences. First thing I did, laughed my ass off. Second thing I did, set that shit on fire with my Zippo and threw the ashes in the wind. Clay had his land exempt from HOA bullshit since the 80s. I got the papers framed in the hallway next to his picture with Willie fucking Nelson. 2 days later, Rick shows up, rolls up in his Prius, steps out like he owns the place. Collared shirt tucked in. Smirk like he just got promoted from assistant asshole to full-time piece of shit. "Mr. Whitaker?" he says, like he knows me. "We've had some concerns." "Oh, we have," I said. "Standing in my yard with oil on my hands and a hammer in my belt?" "Well, ain't that something?" Buddy growled the whole damn time. "There's been multiple reports about firearms, unsafe structures, improper signage, flags with politically aggressive messaging." I looked him dead in the eye and said, "You mean the flag that says, 'Don't tread on me'?" "That's history. Son, maybe you ought to read a book." He didn't like that much. Took some pictures, jotted down notes, left without shaking my hand. That was the first visit. After that, shit escalated. One morning, I found dog shit smeared on my truck windshield. The next, someone pulled up all my property markers along the back fence. Then came the mailbox smashed to hell with a bat. No witnesses. No proof. But I knew, Buddy knew. Rick was playing dirty. Rick was... So I did what any smart bastard would do. Set up cameras. Front gate. Back gate. Hell. I even nailed a trail cam to the goddamn scarecrow. I ain't looking for a fight. But I ain't about to lose one, neither. Then came the coyotes. Real ones this time. A couple nights ago, they got too close to the goats. So I grabbed my Winchester, stepped out, and fired 2 warning shots. Just noise. Just enough to make them think twice. Guess who was watching? Next morning, another letter. Dangerous discharge of firearms? Possible endangerment? HOA will pursue legal action if threats continue. Motherfuckers act like I'm running a damn militia out here. So when Rick showed up this morning, I figured maybe he'd talk, maybe he'd yell, puff his chest, file another bullshit complaint. What I didn't expect was the shotgun, and that trigger finger, and the fact that I'm standing here, barefoot, half awake, damn near murdered over a fucking fence line and a flag. Sirens get louder. I see dust kicking up down the road. Cops are coming. And I'm just sitting there in the dirt, breathing heavy. Buddy next to me, shotgun smoke still floating in the air. And all I'm thinking is, Rick, you better pray those cops believe your bullshit. 'Cause if they don't, you're done. The first cruiser pulled up with a cloud of dust behind it. Siren cutting out as it rolled to a stop right in front of my gate. Gravel crackling under the tires. Second one wasn't far behind. 2 deputies jumped out, hands already on their guns like this was a fucking hostage situation. Buddy growled low next to me, tail stiff, body tense. I gave him a sharp whistle. Down. Boy. He didn't move, but he didn't lunge either. Good dog. Better self-control than me. That's for damn sure. I stood up slow, hands in plain sight. I wasn't about to give anyone a reason to twitch. Shirt was still half unbuttoned, coffee stain down the front, and my heart was beating like a jackrabbit on meth. I'm unarmed, I called out. This is my land. One of the deputies, tall kid, couldn't be more than 25. Looked like he still drank soda from a straw-barked hands where I could see him. Step away from the fence, I nodded, calm as I could be. Didn't like it, but I did it. Because I knew the game. You act pissed, you act defiant. You go down hard, you act like a reasonable old bastard with nothing to hide. You might get to tell your side before they cuff your ass. And then like the devil himself just rolled up to ruin my Tuesday. Rick came strutting over, shotgun slung across his chest like he was on patrol in Fallujah. Face clean, shirt tucked in. Suddenly real calm. He looked at the deputies and waved like this was a fucking barbecue. That's him, he said, pointing at me. He threatened me. Fired shots. He's unstable. He's been harassing me for weeks. The little bastard was acting, putting on a whole-ass performance. And worse, they were listening. Then I saw him. Deputy Daniels. Same one who came out a few weeks ago when Rick called in a bullshit complaint about me running a paramilitary training operation just because Travis stopped by to show me how to clean my AR. Daniels was a straight shooter. Not smart, but not dumb either. He walked over, hand on his belt, eyes squinting at Rick, then over at me. "Buck," he said, nodding. "Daniels," I replied. "Rick says you fired at him? Says you've been threatening him." I laughed. Couldn't help it. "Daniels? The bastard just shot at me." Rick stepped forward, fake calm in his voice. "I came to speak to him civilly." He snapped. Started yelling. Said he'd shoot me if I didn't leave. So I brought protection. You brought a goddamn shotgun. "Rick," I barked. "And you fired it. There's a goddamn crater by my gate to prove it." Daniels looked between us. He wasn't buying Rick's bullshit entirely, but he wasn't sold on mine either. "You got cameras?" he asked. I nodded. "Gate? Porch? Shed? All of it uploads to the cloud. I'll pull the footage." "Do it," Daniels said. Meanwhile, the other deputy was talking to Rick. Looked a little uncomfortable. Probably didn't expect to show up to a HOA call and find a guy with a shotgun, smelling like lavender soap and murdering his neighbor with legalese. 10 minutes later, I had my phone in hand and the camera footage up on screen. Showed Daniels the exact moment Rick stepped over the line and pulled that shotgun up. "That look like self-defense to you?" I asked. Daniels didn't say a word, just nodded at his partner. Rick's face dropped. That HOA smirk he wore like cologne gone, replaced with sweat and squinting. "We're gonna need your weapon." "Rick," Daniels said, "and we're gonna need you to step aside." Wait, Rick stammered. "He's a danger. He's unstable. He's got a stockpile in that house," I pointed with my chin. "You trespassed. You crossed onto my land. You fired first. That's a felony. Last I checked." Daniels nodded. "We'll sort this out," which was cop talk for "we ain't arresting nobody yet, but you both just bought yourself a fat folder of paperwork." Rick backed up, sputtering and twitching. They took his gun, logged it, took mine too, not because I used it, but because I could have. And in this state, that's all the excuse they need. They told us both not to contact each other, which was fine by me, because I was already planning my next move and I didn't need to talk to Rick to burn his little kingdom to the goddamn ground. Later that night, back inside, Buddy was curled up under the kitchen table. Poor bastard didn't leave my side all day. I poured a shot of bourbon, sat on the couch, and downloaded the footage to every goddamn backup I had USB sticks. My old laptop, the cloud, Travis's Google Drive, and a burner hard drive I keep in the barn just in case shit goes full apocalypse. I wasn't taking chances, because this wasn't over. Just as I was about to turn in for the night, my phone buzzed. Email, no subject line. From the county zoning office. I opened it. Noise complaint, zoning violation report. Suspected unauthorized firearms training facility operating on non-commercial agricultural land. Attached photos of me and Travis standing by the shed. An audio clip of my warning shots from the coyote incident. Even a fucking quote from Rick's HOA minutes claiming I was arming neighbors and threatening local wildlife. I stared at the screen. Jaw tight. You motherfucker. This wasn't just HOA games anymore. This was war. Legal. Paper-wrapped. HOA-sanctioned war. And Rick, that pencil-neck prick, just made the worst mistake of his goddamn life. He tried to out-crazy me. It was Thursday when she showed up Ellie. Didn't call first. Didn't text. Just got dropped off at my gate like Amazon delivered her by accident. I was in the middle of fixing the front axle on the John Deere wrench in one hand, cigarette in the other when a dusty-ass Toyota pulled up. beeped twice, and this girl got out wearing black jeans, a hoodie, and a face that screamed, "I hate everything and everyone." The driver, some woman I didn't recognize, leaned out the window and shouted, "She's yours for a while," then peeled off down the gravel like she owed me money. Ellie slung a backpack over her shoulder and walked toward me like she was headed to a fucking funeral. Earbuds and zero eye contact. Buddy barked. I stood up, wiped my hands on a rag, and said, "The hell is this?" She pulled one earbud out like I just interrupted her Grammy speech. Mom said I'm staying here for a few weeks. Something about needing space. Or a break. Or rehab. I wasn't really listening. Jesus. This girl was, what, 16, 17, skinny? Pale? Had the attitude of a hungover biker? Purple streak in her hair? Lip ring. Dead eyes. Whole vibe screamed suburban rebellion. And she was now on my goddamn ranch. I took a long drag off my smoke, then let out a sigh that sounded like a Vietnam vet at a hippie festival. "You got a name, Ellie?" She said flat. "Figures," I muttered. She looked around like she just landed on Mars. Squinted at the barn, wrinkled her nose at the smell of hay and goat shit. "This place sucks." Good. Then we agree on something. Now look, I ain't never been a father. Hell, I ain't even been a good husband not once. Not twice, but 3 goddamn times. But I ain't heartless. She was blood. My sister's kid. Which meant whether I liked it or not, she was mine to deal with. So I pointed to the guest room and said, "Don't touch nothing. Don't break nothing. Don't piss off the dog. And if you see a snake, don't scream shoot." She blinked. "You have snakes. Welcome to Texas." Sweetheart. That night, after showing her where the towels were and reminding her that Wi-Fi was a luxury, not a birthright, I sat out on the porch with Buddy, cracking open a beer and staring off into the dark like usual. And you know what? It was quiet. Too quiet. Until I heard the back door creak open. Ellie stepped out barefoot. Hoodie zipped up and sat down on the top step like she wasn't still wearing the fuck you look on her face. We didn't say much at first. Just sat there. Me, her, and the dog. Stars blinking overhead. Coyotes yapping in the distance. Then she asked who was the guy with the shotgun. I raised an eyebrow. That fast, huh? The cops were talking about it. I heard one of them say Whitaker's lucky to be alive. I sipped my beer. Yeah, HOA tried to off me over a noise complaint. She turned to look at me like I was shitting her. Wait, you're serious? Dead serious. Welcome to Harmony Trails Land of the Free, home of the HOA lunatics. She laughed. First time I'd heard it, sounded like a rusted hin, but it was real. That's the most Texas thing I've ever heard. Ain't even the craziest part. I said, wait till they start leaving dead squirrels in the mailbox. She blinked. They do that not yet, but I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure. Over the next few days, Ellie settled in, kinda. She didn't help with chores unless I barked. She stayed glued to her phone unless the signal cut out. Then she wandered around with a look like she'd lost her soul. But she stopped wearing earbuds at dinner. She started asking about tools, and she never once complained about Buddy, even when he drooled on her sketchbook or farted under the table. The kid was weird, but she wasn't soft. Meanwhile, shit with Rick was getting messier. I got another zoning notice, this time accusing me of improper storage of flammable materials. Bastards took pictures of my diesel cans, ones I used for the tractor, and tried to spin it like I was building a fucking bomb. I filed a counterclaim. My lawyer, Hannah, told me to keep documentation of everything, every fence repair, every phone call, every weed I pulled. They're trying to drown you in paper. Buck, she said. But if you build a solid enough wall, their bullshit can't stick. So I did. Cameras check, photos double check, backups tripled. Paranoia. Hell yes. Then, Friday night. Just after sunset, Ellie was inside drawing. Buddy was curled up next to the couch. I saw headlights pull up near the back gate. Too slow to be a neighbor. Too quiet to be friendly. I grabbed the shotgun and slipped out the back. Crept along the fence like I did back in Kandahar. Stayed in the shadows. Heard voices. Two men. Didn't recognize them. One held a flashlight. The other had a goddamn gas can. I raised the shotgun. You boys got a death wish, or are you just stupid? They froze, dropped everything, and bolted into the brush like raccoons on meth. I didn't chase. I just fired one shot into the air, loud as hell, and yelled, "Next time, I don't miss." Buddy was barking his head off inside. Ellie came running out with wide eyes and no shoes. What happened? I looked at her, jaw tight. HOA just made it personal. I woke up to the smell of smoke. Not the kind from a cigarette or a burning steak, I mean thick black, lung-punching smoke that hits you in the chest like a fucking linebacker. Buddy was already up, barking, panicked, running in circles near the back door. Ellie was at the window, eyes wide, phone clutched in her hand. "Buck," she said, voice cracking. "The barn? It's on fire." I didn't answer, didn't cuss, didn't yell. Just threw on my boots, grabbed the fire extinguisher from the kitchen, and sprinted outside with Buddy on my heels. And there it was, the whole goddamn barn lit up like the 4th of July, flames shooting out the windows, roof already starting to collapse. The sky was orange. The air was thick and mean. You ever smell burning hay and diesel? It's like breathing through a fucking rag soaked in regret. I got to the water hose and turned the valve nothing. Dry. Tried the barrels near the shed slashed. Somebody had planned this. Somebody had come onto my land, cut my water lines, drained my backup, and lit my barn up while me and my niece were sleeping 20 feet away. "Ellie," I yelled, "get the goats out." She didn't even hesitate. That girl was barefoot, wearing some dumb anime shirt, and she bolted into the smoke like she was born here. While I was trying to beat back the flames with a piss-ass extinguisher that wasn't doing shit. She kicked open the side gate of the pen and started hollering. The animals burst out like they'd been shot. Goats, sheep, even the fat-ass pig Clay used to call Senator Pork Barrel. They made it, just barely. The fire didn't give a shit. It tore through the rafters, dropped half the roof, sent sparks raining down like Judgment Day. And right before I got out, right when I thought I had a shot at saving the tack room, a beam came down and clipped my leg. Burned through the denim. Skin sizzled. I dropped, rolled, and crawled out on my elbows like I was dragging myself out of Fallujah again. When I finally stumbled back to the porch, Ellie was sitting there with a goat in her lap and Buddy licking her arm like he was checking for wounds. My barn was gone. My leg was cooked medium well. My patience burnt to fucking ash. The fire truck showed up 20 minutes too late. Sheriff Daniels came right behind him. Hair messy. Shirt untucked. Flashlight in his teeth. He stepped out of the cruiser, took one look at the smoldering wreck, and said, "Shit." Yeah, no kidding. He walked the perimeter with me. Flashlight sweeping over melted tools. Warped metal and charred wood. Found a burned gas can near the north wall. Cap off. Smelled like unleaded accelerant. He muttered, "This wasn't spontaneous." No shit. "Sherlock," I snapped, wincing as I leaned on the porch rail. Daniels didn't take offense. He knew I was pissed. He was pissed too. He looked over at Ellie, who had a blanket around her shoulders and soot on her face like war paint. "She okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Tougher than she looks." Then Daniels said something that stopped me cold. "We think we know who did it." I turned, jaw tight. "Say it." Neighbor saw a white SUV, no plates, parked near the back trail about an hour before the fire started. They said they saw two men unloading something heavy. Rick, I asked. Maybe, but more likely the crew he's got helping him. Hired hands? HOA budget list security consulting expenses. Guess what company we traced it to? Tell me. Mike fucking Reeves. Rick's right-hand man. Treasurer of the HOA. The same dipshit who once tried to fine Clay for flying an American flag too high. You arresting him? Daniel shook his head. We got smoke, not fire. No solid proof. Yet, that's when I snapped. I ain't proud of it. But I grabbed that scorched Zippo out of my pocket, flipped it open, and held it up to Daniel's face. You want fire, I growled? I'll give you fire. But I ain't letting these sons of bitches burn me out of my home while you wait on proof. He stepped back, real calm. Buck. I get it. I do. But we're playing chess. Not checkers? Bullshit. I spat. They're playing with matches, and you're bringing a goddamn clipboard. He left not long after, said he'd open a formal arson investigation, which I knew was cop speak for we're watching, but don't hold your breath. Me and Ellie hosed down what little embers were left. At one point she said, "Why are they doing this?" Over what some land I looked at her. Ash in my beard. Eyes like coals. Because people like Rick don't want peace. They want control. And if they can't buy it or scare it into submission, they burn it down. The next day, I found something new. Spray paint, red letters across my front gate. You think this is over. You ever get so goddamn mad? Your blood goes cold. Not hot, not fiery, cold. Like something inside you just shuts off and turns into steel. That was me, standing at my gate, staring at red spray paint that read, "You think this is over," big bold letters. Still dripping. Still fresh. Like they wanted me to know they were close, real close, and not scared of getting caught. I wasn't scared either. I was done being scared. The fire that was a shot across the bow. The paint that was personal. Now it was my turn. I started the day with coffee, bourbon, and a list. Top of that list, Hannah Keller, best damn lawyer in 3 counties. Sharp as a tack, mean as a rattlesnake, and twice as likely to bite your ass off if you wasted her time. She picked up on the first ring. Buck Whitaker. I figured you'd call eventually. I've got arson, trespass, harassment, and some HOA dickbags playing with matches. Think that's enough for one lawsuit, she said. Maybe. But I'm thinking bigger. How big criminal conspiracy big? How do you feel about taking down a whole fucking HOA? Now that's the kind of foreplay I like. While Hannah started digging into the HOA's finances and bylaws, I started gathering every piece of dirt I could find. First call Travis, ex-Marine, runs a local firearms safety program, paranoid as hell in all the right ways. You still got that drone with the thermal cam, I asked. What happened? Barn's gone. HOA torched it. Be there in 20. That night, we flew the drone. High up, quiet, steady. Thermal picked up 2 figures near the back fence. Real late. One of them looked like Mike Reeves. The other wore camo, might have been Rick. Might have been one of the hired thugs he's been paying with HOA dues. They were marking trees, surveying, setting up boundary stakes on land that sure as hell wasn't theirs. Travis zoomed in. These dumbasses don't even realize you got night vision on them. That's the idea. I saved every frame. Printed screenshots. Labeled everything. Evidence, HOA trespass. 214. I made 5 copies. 1 for Hannah. 1 for my safe. 1 for Travis's garage. 1 for a bank deposit box. And 1 tucked inside the ammo can under my bed. I've been in wars. You don't survive unless you assume they're coming for the last copy. Next move. Go public. Ellie helped me set up a Facebook group called Texas landowners against HOA tyranny. At first, I thought no one would give a damn. Turns out I wasn't the only one. Stories started pouring in. Folks getting fined for lawn colors, threatened for flying American flags, harassed for building swing sets, putting up sheds, even parking pickup trucks in their own driveways. HOAs were out of control, and now they had to face Rick fucking Lawson. Ellie, despite acting like a pissed-off alley cat most of the time, was weirdly useful. She was good with tech, helped me edit the drone videos, clean up the audio. I even added subtitles for the old folks. And she was the one who said, "You need to post your story." I ain't no influencer. Kid? No. But you're pissed honest and not afraid to tell people to fuck off. That's basically a brand now. Fair enough. So we posted a video. Me, sitting on what used to be my barn steps. Soot on my jeans. Buddy at my feet. I stared straight at the camera and said, "Name's Buck Whitaker. I served this country for 20 goddamn years. Came back to live quiet on the land my uncle left me. And now some HOA assholes think they can scare me off with fire, fines, and fake laws. They fired a shotgun at me, burned down my barn, tagged my gate like a gang of teenagers with small dicks. But I ain't moving. I ain't backing down. And if you're out there dealing with the same shit, you shouldn't either." By the next morning, the post had over 8,000 shares. Then it hit 20,000. Then 50,000. People were pissed. And now they had a rally point. Meanwhile, Hannah called with an update. They're funneling HOA funds into a shell company. She said, "It's owned by Rick's cousin. That's where your security patrols are coming from." That legal? Absolutely not. You building a case, I'm building a fucking guillotine. Then came the moment we'd been waiting for. Hannah dug up Section 9.4 of the HOA Charter. Buried deep in the fine print was a clause. If the acting board or president is found to be involved in criminal activity that endangers the safety of the community, an emergency vote may be held to dissolve the board in its entirety. Boom. That was the kill switch. All we needed was proof and public pressure. We had both. So we filed official complaint with the county, evidence packet, drone footage, fire marshal report, spray paint photos, audio logs, security cam clips, HOA budget misuse, witness statements, the whole goddamn enchilada. Then Ellie hit post on the final video, the one with everything, and the title, "How the HOA Tried to Burn Me Off My Land and Failed." By midnight, Rick's name was trending locally. Mike Reeves deleted all his social media, and the HOA website mysteriously went under maintenance. I cracked a beer that night and sat on the porch with Buddy. Ellie joined me, flopped into the chair next to mine. Hoodie up, eyes tired. "You think it's working?" she asked. I nodded slow. "Oh, it's working all right." I looked out over the field where my barn used to be. But they ain't done yet. Not by a long shot. It was Saturday evening dusk settling over the ranch like warm piss on a cold toilet seat. Ellie was inside making something that smelled suspiciously like instant ramen and bad decisions. I was riding the ATV out by the west fence line, checking a busted valve near the old cattle trough. Buddy trotted alongside me, tail wagging. Happy as hell just being out there sniffing coyote shit and acting like he ran the place. I had a beer in one hand, valve wrench in the other. And then I saw it. Movement. Near the tree line, about 20 yards from the property edge. Two figures in dark hoodies were crouched by the fence. One had something shiny in his hand, looked like a bolt cutter. The other had a phone out, taking pictures. I shut off the ATV, cut the engine. Buddy stopped dead beside me, ears perked. We watched. The one with the camera pointed at the busted part of the fence and said, "Clear as fucking day. Just get a few more shots of the wire down." Then we filed the claim saying he's neglecting his fencing. That'll trigger a code check. The other one laughed. "Should we cut the irrigation pipe too?" My blood went cold. This wasn't just trespassing. They were planting fake violations, trying to make me look like some lazy jackass who couldn't manage his land. Also, the HOA could file official complaints, get the county involved, and start building their bullshit public use case. Motherfuckers were trying to steal my land with paperwork and sabotage. I stepped off the ATV real slow, grabbed my sidearm Glock 19 holstered on my belt. Safety on? I didn't point it. Didn't need to. Not yet. Buddy growled low, almost a whisper. I stepped out from behind the tree line and said, "You boys lost, or just stupid." They froze, like deer in goddamn headlights. One dropped the bolt cutters, the other fumbled his phone and damn near fell backward into the brush. "Oh shit," one of them shouted. Then they ran, I took off after them. I ain't fast, not with my bum knee and my bad attitude, but I've still got the old army legs when I need 'em. Chased 'em 50 yards before they split off behind the ridge. Didn't matter. I already had what I needed. I'd snapped a photo before I stepped out. Got both their faces clear as day. One of them was Mike Reeves' HOA treasurer, Rick's little lapdog. The other, I didn't recognize it, but that didn't matter. I had names, faces, intent, criminal behavior. This wasn't HOA anymore. This was fucking conspiracy. I called Daniels. He showed up 30 minutes later. Lights off, real quiet. I showed him the photos, told him what they were doing. He just shook his head, jaw tight, eyes cold. "They're desperate now," he said. "Your land deal, the one you just bought on the edge that probably screwed up their whole zoning plan. They were counting on that for the walking trail proposal. So they fake damage and try to pin it on me." I growled, "Yep. That's a new level. This ain't just harassment anymore. This is felony level bullshit." Daniel said he was opening a new file, sending everything to the state this time. He'd had enough, too. But I knew how this worked. Files get buried. Witnesses forget. Hell, even video gets lost in processing. So I didn't stop there. That night, I went full fucking ops mode. Ellie and I replaced every cam on the property with high-res night vision trail cams. I rigged motion detectors, perimeter lights, even some old-school tin can tripwires with broken glass. Buddy patrolled with me like a goddamn soldier. That dog didn't sleep. Neither did I. 2 nights later, I got woke up by the smell again. Not fire this time, gasoline. Buddy barked once, sharp and loud. I jumped out of bed, grabbed the shotgun, and threw open the back door. And there they were. 3 masked sons of bitches crouched behind my pickup near the barn wreckage. One had a gas can, another had a crowbar, the third had something that looked a whole lot like a fucking pistol. I didn't hesitate. Fired a warning shot straight into the air. "Step away from the truck," I bellowed. "This is private property, armed and monitored." They bolted, but I was ready. Tripwires snapped. One of them tripped hard, face planting into the dirt. Buddy took off like a damn missile and tackled him before he could even get up. I ran down with a shotgun leveled, kicked the bastard onto his back, and ripped the ski mask off. It was Mike. "Fucking Reeves? You don't get it." He spat. "You think you're the hero? You destroyed everything. Rick built this community." "He built a prison," I said, barrel right between his eyebrows, "and I just burned it down." Daniels and 2 deputies rolled up not long after. Turns out one of Rick's little buddies, a rookie cop, had been rerouting patrols around my ranch at night. But Travis, good old Travis, had called the sheriff direct that night when I told him something felt off. And thank God he did. Other 2 bastards got caught running through the brush. One had zip ties, lighter fluid, and a printout of my property map. This wasn't vandalism. This was a planned hit. Daniels looked pale. They weren't just scaring you. Buck. They were going to torch your truck. Maybe the house. Maybe worse. "Yeah," I muttered. "I figured. You sure you want to keep fighting this Daniels?" I said, looking him dead in the eye, I ain't fighting. I'm winning. One arrest at a goddamn time. Courtrooms smell like sweat, old wood, and people holding in way too much bullshit. I ain't a man who wears suits, but I had one on that day. Navy blue, stiff as a goddamn flagpole. Ellie picked it out, said I looked like someone who actually might win. I told her I looked like a funeral director. She said, that's fine. You're here to bury someone anyway. Fair point. The courtroom was full. Not just with suits and lawyers, but neighbors, veterans, ranchers. Hell, even Travis shaved and put on pants. That's how you know it was serious. Jim Benson sat at the defendant's table, pale, hollow, like a balloon someone forgot to tie. He didn't look so high and mighty now. His lawyer, some soft-faced fellow with a voice like warm yogurt, kept whispering to him. But Jim just sat there, staring ahead. Mike Reeves wouldn't even look at me, probably still sore from face planting into my tripwire. The judge was an older woman named Carla Drexler. Gray hair? No nonsense. Eyes like ice. Mr. Whitaker, she said, you're here to testify. You understand the consequences of perjury? I served 20 years defending the truth. Ma'am, I said, I ain't about to start lying now. She nodded, and I let it rip. I told them everything. The first fake complaint, the drone footage, the fire, the cut hoses, the night they showed up with weapons and zip ties, the threats, the paint on my gate, the goddamn crossbow. I showed him videos, maps, timestamps, receipts. Hell, I even passed around a burned piece of wood from the barn with melted fencing still stuck to it. The jury watched in dead silence. Even Jim's lawyer stopped taking notes. Then Hannah brought the heat. She laid out the money trail, proved that HOA funds had been funneled into shell companies, showed how Rick had misused thousands for security consulting that amounted to sending armed goons after me. She read their own rules back to them, Section 9.4, Clause 2, Paragraph 3. If any elected member of the board engages in criminal activity tied to HOA operations, the board may be immediately dissolved pending a community vote. It was right there, in black and white. Jim's lawyer tried to argue overreach, said Jim never intended real harm, and that the crossbow was for personal protection. Judge Drexler raised an eyebrow so sharp it could have slit throats. Protection on someone else's land, in camo, at 3 mem. Yes, Your Honor, you're an idiot, she said. Bang. Overruled. The jury took 2.5 hours. They came back guilty on all charges: aggravated trespassing, attempted assault with a deadly weapon, arson, conspiracy to commit fraud, harassment. Jim got 12 years, Mike got 7. Rick. That bastard skipped the state and tried to hide in Arizona. He was arrested 3 days later at a Motel 6 drunk, wearing a fucking bathrobe. That night, I sat on the porch with Buddy. The stars were out. The air was clean. The barn was gone. But the ground was mine, free and clear. Ellie came outside, 2 cold beers in hand. To winning, she said. To stand in your damn ground? I replied. But it didn't end with court. We had the emergency HOA vote a week later. Local community center, packed wall to wall. Ellie ran the slides. Travis stood by the door like a bouncer at a honky-tonk. I gave one speech. Just one. They burned my barn, tried to jail me, tried to run me off my land, all in the name of community standards. If that's what community means, well, you can kiss my ass. We deserve better. You deserve better. Let's burn the board legally this time. The vote 83% in favor of dissolving the HOA. Gone. Just like that. No more fines, no more threats, no more bureaucratic bullshittery dressed up like neighborhood pride. But peace. That's harder to win. 2 days later, I found an envelope in my mailbox. No stamp. No return address. Just slid in by hand. Inside photos. Me, Ellie, Travis, Buddy. All taken from the woods, the road. The damn front yard. At night, during the day, someone had been watching us again. At the bottom was a note. You humiliated the wrong people. Some of us are still out here. Daniels opened another file. Upped patrols. Set me up with a state contact. I didn't panic. I prepped, fortified, turned my ranch into a goddamn fortress, with better sensors than most National Guard posts. Ellie started a group online, the Rancher Network. Within weeks, over 400 landowners joined. We weren't victims anymore. We were organized. You know what happened next? Other HOAs started getting calls, emails, legal notices. Folks were done being quiet. Hell, even the local news ran a story from fire to freedom. How one rancher sparked a Texas rebellion. Had my face right on the damn front page. I didn't ask for this. I didn't want it. But I'd do it all again if I had to. Because peace is worth fighting for. One morning, I stood at my gate. The one they spray painted months ago. The wood was sanded down, restained, reinforced with iron. I took out my pocket knife and carved 4 words into the beam. Still. Fucking. Standing. Buck. Buddy sat next to me, tail thumping. Ellie walked up and leaned on the gate, smiling. You gonna write a book someday, she asked. Hell no, I said. Just tell them if they come back. I looked out across the land. My land. Make sure they bring a goddamn army. You know what I learned when them sons of bitches burned down my barn? That peace ain't free. Not the kind of peace where you sit on your porch with a dog at your feet, a beer in your hand, and know that ain't nobody coming to fine you for painting your mailbox the wrong fucking color. It's earned, bought with paperwork, bruises, courtrooms, and a whole lot of not backing down. I didn't fight this fight because I wanted to be a hero. Hell, I just wanted to fix fences and grill ribs on Saturdays. But when the HOA came knocking with threats and clipboards and lawsuits and goddamn crossbows, I answered. And I didn't do it alone. You're listening to this now because maybe you're dealing with your own HOA hell. Maybe they're fining you for the wrong kind of grass. Maybe they're trying to take your land with some bullshit green space plan. Maybe they're threatening your grandma over a bird feeder. Well, guess what? You ain't alone. There's more of us than there are of them. And the second you stop being scared, the second you say, not this time, not today, not on my land they lose. So if you got a story like mine, I want to hear it. Hell, the whole damn world needs to hear it. Send it in. Right here to HOA Karen Files. Subscribe if you ain't already. We're exposing bullies, crooks, and HOA tyrants one episode at a time. And if your HOA president shows up with a clipboard and a god complex, tell him Buck sent you. And tell him to get the fuck off your lawn. You ever had some fresh-faced suburban shithead walk onto your land like they own the goddamn place? Well, let me tell you something. I was sitting on my front porch, same as I done every morning for the last 40 years, black coffee, boots up on the railing, watching the sun crawl over the hayfields when I saw that shiny white SUV slow roll past my gate like it was scouting enemy territory. I already knew it wasn't good. Nothing that clean ever means peace. My name's Colton Briggs, and I ain't some TikTok cowboy or a hobby rancher with 2 goats and a designer barn. I run cattle. Real cattle. 200 head spread over 500 acres my granddaddy bought in 1943 with blood money and calloused hands. He came back from war with a busted shoulder and a dream. My daddy picked up where he left off. And now it's on me. This land ain't pretty. It ain't Instagram worthy. But it works hard. Just like I do. So when this clipboard queen, Tina Mallory, that's her name, decided I was some crusty old relic standing in the way of her dream neighborhood, well, she made the mistake of thinking polite meant passive. Big fucking mistake. It all started when those Pinewood Estates houses went up. Clean beige siding, matching mailboxes, driveways so small you couldn't fit a real truck in them. At first, I didn't care. Hell, more folks around here meant better roads. Maybe the feed store stays open past 6 p.m. But then came the bylaws, the complaints. The passive-aggressive flyers slid under my gate. I remember the first time I met Tina like it was yesterday. I was at Cooper's General, stacking 50-pound feed bags into my truck when she swanned over in a red distressed sweater that probably cost more than my whole week's diesel, and khakis with designer holes that ain't never seen dirt. She goes, all syrupy sweet, "Mr. Briggs, I'm Tina Mallory, HOA president over at Pinewood Estates. We've had some concerns." That's when I knew I hated her. Concerns. She said like my cows were sneaking into their yards and shitting in flower beds. Like the smell of honest work was somehow offensive to their yoga brunch. I set the bag down and looked her square. "Ma'am, that smell. That's beef, like that's taxes. That's how your roads got paved." She scribbled something down on that damn clipboard of hers and buzzed off like a mosquito with a fake smile. 3 days later, I got a letter from the Pinewood Estates HOA talking about noise pollution and livestock stench endangering community wellness, read like it was written by a bored paralegal who watched too much Law and Order. And there it was. The opening shot. Now, I ain't the kind of man to panic over words, but you don't run a ranch this long without knowing when someone's coming for you with more than just opinion. Next thing I know, I got cars slow creeping past my gate, folks taking photos like they're with the goddamn EPA. One even hopped out and started measuring my damn fence line. That's when my neighbor Lois, sweet old gal, been here longer than me, said she saw him with clipboards down by the old cattle pen. Clipboard. Always the fucking clipboard. Then the social media shitstorm hit. Tina posted 47 pictures of my barns and manure piles with captions like, "Won't someone think of the children and health hazard next door? I was feeding the damn community when Tina was still wearing braces and failing algebra." But it didn't matter. Narrative is a powerful thing, and she was good at it. People stopped waving. Parents started holding their kids tighter when they passed by on their evening walks. Made me feel like a damn outlaw on my own goddamn land. It came to a head one afternoon. I was working the barn, sweating through my shirt, when I heard SUV doors slam by the gate. I walk out and there they are, Tina, with her fucking sweater and clipboard. Derek Nash, their limp dick treasurer, and some other lady who looked like she wanted to be anywhere but there. They handed me an envelope like it was a death sentence. "Formal notice of violation," Tina said, with that fake-ass authority in her voice, like she thought she was the sheriff in a Hallmark movie. I looked her in the eye and said, "Ma'am, this land was ranch before you were even born. We've been here since the goddamn Dust Bowl. You're standing on history." She started reciting laws like she understood them, quoting environmental statutes and zoning conflicts from a fucking Google search, claiming I had 30 days to remove livestock or face legal action. Let me tell you something. You don't threaten a man on his porch, surrounded by his blood, his soil, and his goddamn cattle. Not unless you're ready to finish that fight. That night, I sat with a beer and that dumbass violation notice in my lap, remembering what my granddaddy once said while mending fence, son. This road don't just lead to our house. It leads to every fight your daddy and I won and everyone you'll have to face. I didn't get it then. But now I did. So I went into the old roll-top desk, the one that smells like tobacco and motor oil, and I started digging through decades of paper. Deeds, maps, letters, originals with stamps and signatures so old they were damn near antique. And there it was. A survey. A real one. From 1986. Turns out Pinewood Estates wasn't even built on the land they thought they bought. They were on my land. Every driveway, every manicured lawn, every HOA mailbox. My blood ran hot, but my mind went cold. This wasn't a land dispute, this was theft. A quiet, polite, clipboard-wielding land grab by people who assumed I was too old or too dumb to notice. They thought wrong? Tomorrow, it'd be my turn to deliver notices. And when I showed up, I wouldn't be carrying a clipboard. I'd be bringing the law. Real law. I don't lose sleep easy. Hell, I once slept through a tornado that tore the roof off the feed barn. But that night, after Tina's HOA brigade marched up my driveway with their little legal cosplay, I was wide-eyed till damn near 3 a.m., digging through paperwork and drinking whiskey like it was holy water. My granddaddy's file. God rest that old bastard was like a time capsule of legal dynamite. Buried under cattle auction slips and rusted paper clips was the one thing Tina and her HOA army hadn't planned for the goddamn truth. Turns out, back in '86, the county tried to buy 50 acres from us for future development. My granddaddy ornery son of a bitch that he was agreed. But only under one condition: that any future neighbors keep their noses out of his business. The documents were clear as Texas sky. They signed on it. I had the maps, the surveys, the whole damn thing. And best part, the place where Pinewood Estates was built. Not even the land that got sold. They'd slapped their HOA utopia onto the wrong goddamn dirt. My dirt. So the next morning, I woke up with a hangover, a plan, and zero patience for bullshit. I didn't go nuclear just yet. You gotta cook revenge low and slow. Like brisket. First, I called Jim Crawford, an old lawyer who used to drink coffee out of a flask and sue developers for sport. I told him everything. He chuckled, said, "Colton, you just handed me a trespassing case wrapped in HOA arrogance. This is gonna be fun." While Jim worked his magic on the legal end, I started my own little operation. See, you don't fight HOA with fists. You fight it with paper, patience, and a damn good printer. I made copies of every deed, survey, clause, and chicken scratch note my granddad ever wrote about those 550 acres. Then I started watching. Every car parked half-assed over my fence line. Every homeowner who let their dog shit on my gravel drive. Every HOA meeting flyer that got stapled to my mailbox. I took notes. I took photos. Hell, I even got me a little drone from Walmart. Ain't tech savvy, but I learned quick when I realized those HOA punks had been filming my cattle with iPhones. If they could spy, so could I. About a week in, things got hot. One morning, there's a certified envelope sitting in my mailbox fancier than a church wedding invite. Inside, a letterhead from some slick city lawyer named Lauren Beckett. With a tone smug enough to punch through the page, she claimed I was in violation of nuisance laws, jeopardizing environmental standards, and had forfeited my grandfathered status due to scope changes in operational methods, which is a real fancy way of saying you're too loud and smelly, and we don't like you. Thing is, Lauren Beckett's been around these parts for years. She knew damn well my operation hadn't changed one lick since the 90s. In fact, I run quieter equipment now than my old man did, and I got fewer cows than we had back in the Clinton administration. This wasn't about laws, this was about power, and Tina was writing checks she damn sure couldn't cash. The same day I got Lauren's letter, I found a petition stuck to my gate with zip ties like some kind of propaganda drop. Apparently, Tina had rallied 31 of her 47 HOA households to sign a petition to rezone my land from agricultural to residential. A complete crock of shit. The thing read like a PTA fear fest. My child has chronic asthma and is suffering due to ranch dust. The smell from the cattle is unbearable at dinner time. Tractor noise wakes up our baby during nap hours. Nap hours, lady. This is a ranch, not a fucking daycare. It wasn't even the lies that burned me up. It was the signatures. Neighbors I'd waved to for years. People I'd pulled out of ditches during ice storms. Folks who bought my beef at the co-op and smiled to my face now acting like I was Chernobyl in boots. That night, I stared out at the pasture, watching the moonlight hit the grass. My boots still muddy, legal papers scattered all over the porch table, and I thought I'm either going to bury them in court, or I'm going to fence this whole goddamn HOA in and start charging admission. The next morning, I did what scared him most. I went quiet. No more social posts, no rants, no confrontations, just quiet. I hired a surveyor, the best in the county, Mark Henderson. Old boy's been walking land since Reagan was president. I told him, Mark, I want you to redraw every line and piss test every legal boundary on this ranch. No shortcuts? He did. What he found was golden. Those bastards were not only encroaching, they'd built their parking lot right on my land. 2 full acres. HOA vehicles, guest access road, even a goddamn swing set. I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my dip. Meanwhile, my lawyer Jim drafted a counterclaim with all the receipts. Grandfather clauses, property surveys, county development agreements, HOA disclosures they all initialed before buying everyone admitting they lived next to a working ranch. The best part, their own sales brochures bragged about charming country living beside historic Texas ranch land. The ranch they now wanted shut down was their own fucking selling point. You can't write comedy this good. Then came the call that changed everything. Carol Jenkins, HOA secretary and Tina's lapdog, called me shaky voice like she was confessing to the priest. Mr. Briggs, she said, I need to tell you. Tina lied. About the citations. The county never fined you. She made it all up to get votes for the petition. I didn't say much. Just thanked her and hung up. Because that was it. That was the bullet in the chamber. I spent the night prepping. Printed health inspection results. Blew up survey maps to poster size. Had Jim Crawford write a letter to accompany my findings. Then I cleaned myself up. Real good. Put on my Sunday boots, the neon blue t-shirt my daughter hates, and my khaki jacket with the tear on the left cuff from when a bull tried to gore me in UDO-8. And I showed up. At their next HOA meeting, the HOA had set up shop in some repurposed trailer they called the Community Center. Looked more like a FEMA outpost with fairy lights. Room full of folding chairs, bad coffee, and fake smiles. Tina was up front, spouting off about protecting our children from outdated agricultural practices. I walked in, folder under one arm, cowboy hat in hand. Evening. Folks, I said, loud and polite. Name's Colton Briggs. You might know me as the reason your house exists. Silence. Tina's face turned pale. The other board members looked like kids caught cheating on a test. I heard y'all were concerned about my cows. Thought I'd bring some homework. I laid the health inspection on the table, highlighted sections, passed out copies. Then came the map, the big one clearly showing that their whole fucking parking lot was on my land. And I didn't shout. I didn't cuss. I let the truth do the talking. Now, I said, I ain't mad. Yet, but I am billing. Starting next month. That's $400 per household for land use. Call it rent. Call it restitution. Call it Texas hospitality tax. I don't care. Gasps. Someone choked on their coffee. Then I smiled. Or I continued. We can keep playing legal ping pong till one of y'all ends up in foreclosure. They didn't clap, but they listened. And Tina sat there. Red sweater bunching at the shoulders, mouth half open, gripping that clipboard like it could save her. It couldn't. After that HOA meeting, you'd think Tina would have crawled back to whatever hole she slithered out from and called it a day. But nah. Some folks ain't built to admit they're wrong. Tina. She's the type who'll drive a car off a cliff before hitting the brakes, clipboard in hand, and lipstick perfectly reapplied. That night after the meeting, I sat on my porch like always. Beer in one hand, boots up on the rail, looking out over 500 acres of pure, unfiltered Texas. I just nuked her whole legal campaign in front of 37 HOA members. Showed them the maps, the health inspection, the survey stakes. Hell, I even offered them a discount if they signed parking agreements that week. You'd think that'd be the end. But I knew better. People like Tina don't retreat. They reload. Sure enough, 2 days later, I got a new letter. This one stamped from Dallas. Real official-like. Tina had lawyered up again, ditched the local girl, and gone big city. $5,000 retainer, Easily, maybe more. The letter accused me of harassment, extortion, defamation, property interference, and psychological intimidation. I had to read that part twice just to make sure it wasn't from a damn satire site. Psychological intimidation, lady. I'm a 65-year-old man who wears the same boots to weddings and funerals. The most psychological intimidation I dish out is a hard stare when my coffee's weak. But her new lawyer wasn't stupid. Just greedy. He knew Tina was grasping at straws, but he also knew desperate clients sign big checks. So I called Jim Crawford. He read the letter, leaned back in his chair, and said, "Colton, I've seen possums with better legal footing than this." Then he cracked open a Dr. Pepper and got to work drafting the response. Meanwhile, word was getting around. Folks at Cooper's General started giving me long looks. Some nodded. Others shuffled off like I'd sprouted horns. I knew Tina had gone full scorched earth on social media. And boy, did she get creative. She posted that I was demanding ransom to access their homes. Claimed my cattle had caused 4 asthma attacks and a miscarriage. She even hinted that I'd threatened children with firearms. Now that one. That was personal? Let me tell you something. I own guns. Hell yes. I do. I've got more rifles than I got pairs of socks. But I don't wave them at kids. I don't threaten folks. And I sure as hell don't point them at women, no matter how clipboard stupid they might be. That was the moment I realized. This ain't about land anymore. This is about reputation. About legacy. My name's been good in this county for 3 generations. My family's blood is in this dirt. I've helped rebuild barns, dug folks out of snow, donated beef to school fundraisers. Hell, I even ran for school board once and lost by 3 votes to a guy who couldn't spell curriculum. I'm not going to let some HOA queenpin from Austin slander my name into the ground like I'm some lunatic survivalist with a shotgun and a grudge. So I called Jim again. This time, we played offense. First, we filed a civil suit for defamation, trespass, and damages. The trespass part. That was easy. Mark Henderson's survey said it all. They'd built on my property, my land, my terms. Second, we filed a formal complaint with the county zoning board, backed with every scrap of proof. I had photos, inspection reports, HOA documents, even Tina's own flyers. All legal. All tidy. Third, and this was Jim's idea, we went to the Attorney General's office with Carol Jenkins' statements about misused HOA funds. Turns out, old Tina had been paying her lawyers out of the HOA piggy bank without proper voter disclosure. That ain't just shady. That's illegal. While the lawsuit spun up, I made sure to keep the ranch spotless. Spotless. Like hospital clean. Barns swept, records laminated, fences painted. If the county sent another inspector, I wanted them to walk away, wondering if I had OCD or just that much spite in my bones. Truth bit of both. Now here's where things got wild. I was fixing a busted water line out by the cattle troughs when I saw 2 unmarked sedans roll up. Government plates. County health and safety inspectors. Tina had filed a formal complaint, claimed my manure runoff was poisoning the water table and giving kids rashes. The inspectors came armed with clipboards, measuring tools, and that look people get when they don't want to be there but got to follow orders. They spent 3 hours poking through everything. Checked soil samples, interviewed my ranch hands, measured distances between pens and property lines. And when they were done, the lead guy shook my hand and said, "Mr. Briggs, your operation is cleaner than a Whole Foods meat locker. Sorry we wasted your time." I gave him a 6-pack of Lone Star as a thank you. He laughed, said he was more of a Shiner guy. Tina, on the other hand, didn't laugh. Because 2 days after that visit, I showed up to another HOA meeting with the inspection report in hand, signed and sealed by the county. I didn't say much. Just walked in, slapped the report on the table, and said, "This is the 5th time y'all have tried to get me shut down. And it's the 5th time the law said you're full of shit." Room went quiet. One woman actually clapped. Then came the press. Somehow, probably Tina word of the lawsuits hit the local news. Headlines like Rancher demands HOA pay rent and cattle war turns legal started making the rounds. They sent a reporter out to interview me. Now, I don't do well with reporters. Last one who came out here tried to pet a bull, had to fish his microphone out of the mud. But this gal was polite, smart, asked good questions. Mr. Briggs, she said, why are you pushing back so hard? I looked at the camera and said, because if you don't fight for your land, someone else will claim it. And if you don't stand up to people who mistake kindness for weakness, you'll end up paving your pasture for their goddamn dog park. That clip went viral? Tina tried to fire back. Of course, posted a teary video on Facebook about how she was just a single mother trying to protect her child. Said I was bullying her with money and privilege, which was real rich, considering she was the one who started this mess with a clipboard. A lie and a lawyer on retainer. But by then, the tide had turned. HOA members started asking real questions. Derek Nash resigned from the board and apologized to me personally at Cooper's General. Said I should have known better. I signed shit I didn't read. That's on me. Hell, I forgave him. Man owned it. But Tina, she still doubled down, hired a PR firm, sent letters to every house, told them if they sided with me, they were undermining community values. People laughed, 'cause now I was the community, not her. Then came the eviction notice. But not for me. For them. Jim filed a formal claim of encroachment with the county, which meant I could legally have their parking lot shut down and cars towed. We posted signs private property. Unauthorized vehicles will be towed. $400 monthly use fee. Due immediately. Contact owner for access agreements. That's when the phone started ringing. HOA members calling me, begging to work things out, offering to pay, offering to help clean my damn barn if it meant keeping their driveways. And I didn't gloat. Well, okay, I gloat a little. But just inside, this wasn't just about winning. This was about reclaiming the story. They tried to make me the villain, tried to paint me as a redneck relic standing in the way of progress. But progress ain't legal if it's built on lies. And this ranch, it's got more history in one fence post than their whole development has in concrete. They wanted war. Well, now they got one. By now, the folks over in Pinewood Estates didn't look at me like I was some crazy old man with cow shit on his boots and a death wish. No, sir. They looked at me like I was the Grim Reaper, who happened to own the land under their damn parking lot. And honestly, I like that. There's something about finally being seen clear that hits different after months of getting slandered like you're some backwoods psycho. But I wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. After I posted those private property, pay or move your damn SUV signs, things started shifting. Some of them called me up, polite as Sunday school teachers. Mr. Briggs, can we come to an agreement? Is there a payment plan for the rent? Would you accept beef as partial payment? That one made me laugh. Others got real pissy. Left voicemails calling me a bully, a dictator, a tyrant. One guy even called me Texas Putin. I saved that one. Put it on a t-shirt. But most of them, they folded like lawn chairs in a windstorm. 'Cause deep down, they knew I was right. I had the paperwork. I had the court filings. I had their own signed disclosures saying they knew damn well they were moving in next to a ranch. One HOA lady told me, I thought the cows would be cute. I didn't realize they'd be noisy. I said, ma'am, you know what's noisier than cows' foreclosure? Now Tina was spiraling. She doubled down, hired a Dallas PR firm to make herself look like the victim. Put out a video with sad piano music, sitting on her porch talking about how her child can't sleep because of livestock trauma. Livestock trauma? The only trauma that kid's suffering is watching his mom crash a HOA into the goddamn side of a lawsuit. But she wasn't done yet. No, sir. Couple days later, Jim Crawford calls me up, says, you're going to want to sit down for this one. Buck, Tina had filed a petition with the county board demanding they rezone my ranch as a residential development for the future safety and harmony of the community. I told Jim, she wants to rezone my cows into condos now. He goes, worse? She attached medical evidence of alleged respiratory issues caused by your livestock. I was halfway through a beer and damn near choked. Is she serious, so? She's serious, Jim said. She even got a handful of HOA folks to sign affidavits claiming they've developed rural respiratory syndrome since moving in. I said, that sounds like something you catch from listening to too much NPR. Jim chuckled. We'll bury her in facts. And bury her we did. I went to the courthouse myself, with copies of the county health reports, environmental clearance letters, every contract they signed when buying their homes, all with a line stating, this property is adjacent to a functioning cattle ranch. Buyer acknowledges and accepts all normal agricultural activities, including odor, sound, and dust. Hell, it was in bold font. Some of them even initialed it twice. I handed the whole pile to the zoning board, looked the chair in the eye and said, you let her rezone this land, and you'll have half the ranchers in Texas on your front lawn by Friday. That was the day I stopped playing defense. That was the day the county turned on her. Ain't nothing gets a local government nervous like bad PR, legal liability, and pissed-off cattlemen. Suddenly, people started digging. A reporter from the Tribune found out Tina had been using HOA funds to pay her lawyers over $4,000 undocumented. No board approval, no votes. Just straight-up misappropriation. A week later, Carol Jenkins, the same Carol who used to follow Tina like a lost pup, stood up in a meeting and dropped the hammer I have been recording and keeping minutes for every HOA meeting. And I can confirm Tina authorized the spending herself, without informing the board. Gasps. Actual gasps. Someone dropped a coffee cup. Tina turned the color of store-brand mayo. I didn't even have to say a word. Just sat in the back in my beat-up boots, arms crossed, smiling like a dog who'd just watched the mailman fall down the porch stairs. They voted to suspend all HOA actions related to my ranch, pending legal review. Carol stepped in as interim president. Derek Nash resigned. Again. Poor bastard couldn't even finish a full term. And Tina, well, Tina tried to speak. Tried to blame miscommunication, legal confusion, and the emotional toll of single motherhood. But nobody was buying it anymore. She left the meeting without her clipboard. 2 days later, I had survey stakes installed all around the disputed land. Bright orange, clearly labeled. I even hired a local sign guy to put up no trespassing signs at every spot Pinewood folks had been ignoring my fences for years. Some folks were shocked. One lady said, Mr. Briggs, my kids have always played over there, I told her. Ma'am, they've been playing on my land. That ends today. You want to rent it? Let's talk. Otherwise, teach them where the lines are. She nodded. Quiet, respectful. That's all I ask. Then came the deal. Carol called me up, voice nervous, polite, asked if we could work something out, an official agreement. No more threats. Just terms, clean, simple. I said, only if we talk face to face. So she came out, along with 5 other homeowners. We sat on my porch, drank tea, ate jerky, looked over the pasture as the sun dropped behind the barn. I laid it out playing $300 a month per house for access rights and parking on the disputed area. No more, no less. You pay, you park. You don't. You walk from the street. They talked amongst themselves. Then one guy asked, what'll the money go toward? I told him the truth. Fixing the gravel road, lighting, fence upgrades, and whatever's left goes toward the county ag program. I ain't looking to get rich. Just want it fair. They agreed. 39 households signed within the week. The others they held out for a few days. but walking 300 yards with groceries in Texas heat will humble a man real quick. By the end of the month, every single household had signed. And just like that, the HOA's war became a partnership. They respected me. I respected them. And Tina, she packed her shit and vanished. Mortgage defaulted. Lawyer bailed. IRS opened an investigation into her fake income streams. And the Pinewood Estates HOA. Now they call me for help. Hell, I got invited to their next barbecue. They asked me to bring beef. So what's the moral here? Simple, never mistake a rancher's silence for surrender. We don't bark. We don't bluff. But when we bite, we don't let go. I was taking a leak behind the barn when my phone buzzed like a rattlesnake in a coffee can. Colton, Jim Crawford said. Turn on Channel 7. I zipped up, hustled inside and flipped on the old TV in the kitchen, the one with duct tape holding the remote together. There she was. Tina Mallory, on the goddamn news. Hair curled, makeup airbrushed, sitting on a porch swing with fake tears and that clipboard sitting on her lap like a baby Jesus. I'm just a single mother. She sniffled, trying to protect my son and my neighbors from a hostile landowner who's charging rent just to access our homes. It's cruel and it's un-American. Un-American lady. You've been squatting on my land rent-free for 2 years. I should have charged y'all retroactive interest. The reporter nodded like a bobblehead. He didn't ask about her HOA lawsuits. Didn't ask about the misuse of funds, just handed her the mic and let her sing the whole goddamn victim gospel. I sat back in my chair, arms crossed, steam blowing out of my ears like an old diesel truck. You ever been accused of something you didn't do on national television? Feels like getting kicked in the balls by someone wearing church shoes. But I didn't get mad. Not out loud anyway, because what Tina didn't realize was that when you open the media door, the truth comes knocking too. And she'd just invited the whole damn world inside. So I called Jim. I want to talk, I said, to the press. He paused. You sure I got nothing to hide? He laughed. Good, 'cause they're calling already. The next morning, I met a local news crew at the ranch gate. I wore my oldest pair of jeans, dirt-stained boots, and a neon blue t-shirt that read, I own cows, not HOA bullshit. They followed me around the property, shot footage of my cattle, the barns, the survey markers, the fence lines. I handed them the inspection report from the county, the environmental clearance, the sales disclosures with bold yellow highlights. Then I looked into the camera and said, they moved in knowing full well there was a ranch next door. Now they want to act like I'm running a meth lab. I don't harass nobody. I just expect people to pay for what they use. This land's been in my family since 1943. My granddad dug that well with his bare hands. If Tina wants to cry on TV, she can do it from Austin. 'Cause here in Texas, you don't build a neighborhood on someone else's land and then bitch when they send you a bill. That clip went viral. I mean, viral. Facebook groups lit up. Reddit threads popped like prairie dogs. Ranchers, veterans, and even liberal city slickers started commenting. This man is a national treasure. The HOA just got bucked. I'd buy beef from this guy just out of spite. Next thing I know, I'm getting interview requests from podcasts, blogs. Hell, some hipster from Brooklyn wanted to do a documentary. I said no to the film crew. I don't need a drone buzzing my cattle. But I did record a statement for the HOA Karen Files YouTube channel. They say never pick a fight with a man who's got more dirt under his nails than you've got in your backyard. Well, Tina did. And now she's learning what happens when you mistake quiet for weak. And Tina, she lost her damn mind. She posted a 12-minute Facebook video titled, Exposing the Rancher's Lies. I only made it through the first 3 minutes before I had to pause and go chop wood just to calm down. She claimed I was running an unregistered commercial feedlot, said I'd used intimidation tactics, and accused me of psychological abuse of the HOA board. Lady, I barely talk to y'all unless I'm handing over legal documents. But you know what the best part was? The comments. Her own neighbors lit her up like a Christmas tree in July. We signed the disclosure. Astina, you spent our money on lawyers. You lied to us. That's on you. Even Carol Jenkins jumped in. I recorded every HOA meeting. Tina authorized every payment, spread every lie, and bullied every homeowner who questioned her. Mr. Briggs didn't harass anyone. He just showed receipts. That post got more likes than Tina's video did views. And while all this was going down, guess who came knocking the IRS? Turns out when you lie on your mortgage app and run side hustles through fake MLMs, Uncle Sam takes notice, especially when someone files a whistleblower report through the HOA. Don't look at me. I ain't saying I did it. I'm just saying it got done. By the end of that week, Tina was qualified under IRS audit, facing HOA embezzlement charges, owed $2,800 in unpaid mortgage fees, and being ghosted by her lawyer in Dallas. Meanwhile, the HOA held a new vote. This time, they elected Carol Jenkins as president. Derek Nash came back as treasurer after taking a crash course in not being a gullible dumbass. They asked if I'd come speak at the next community meeting. I said, I'll bring beef. And so I did. Set up a grill. Served burgers made from cattle born and raised right here. Folks showed up with beer, sides, and open minds. We laughed, and we told stories. Some apologized for believing Tina's crap. One guy said, "You're not what I expected." I said, "I get that a lot." That night, under string lights and Texas stars, I looked around and realized the ranch wasn't just offended, it was integrated. So yeah, Tina tried to ruin me. She tried to weaponize the media, twist the narrative, and paint herself as the heroine in a story she damn well wrote with crayons. But in the end, the facts outlived the fiction. And me, I just kept telling the truth, with a beer in one hand and the receipts in the other. You ever watch a hornet fly full speed into a bug zapper? That's what Tina Mallory looked like when the Texas Attorney General's office slapped her with a formal investigation. And I'll be honest, I cracked a cold Shinerbach, pulled up a lawn chair, and watched it all burn with the satisfaction of a man who just swatted the last fly in the kitchen. It all started with a letter. Certified, state seal, delivered straight to the Pinewood Estates HOA mailbox. Carol Jenkins opened it, read it, whistled low like a ranch dog smelling trouble, then called me. "Buck," she said, "I think you're going to want to see this." I showed up in my old pickup, dust flying off the tires like it knew something was about to go down. Walked into the HOA office, still a glorified trailer, and there it was. A full-on investigation into misuse of HOA funds, falsified meeting records, and unreported campaign donations. See, turns out, Tina had not only dipped into the HOA fund to pay her lawyer and PR folks, she'd also been collecting voluntary donations from a few true believers in the neighborhood. No receipts, no logs. Just envelopes slid under her door with crayon-written messages like, "Keep fighting the rancher." She spent most of it on a new laptop, a consultant from Facebook, and get this, an HOA leadership retreat in Austin. Alone. The audit report from the AG's office read like a bedtime story for bitter landowners. Unauthorized expenditures, $4,200. No board approval, check. No receipts. Double check. Personal benefit, yep. Airbnb stay and Uber charges to a nail salon. She could have bought herself a one-way Greyhound ticket out of Texas. But no, she went with shellac and a selfie light. Then came the IRS. Apparently, when you lie about your income to get a mortgage, and then flaunt that mortgage on Instagram while selling eyeliner and protein shakes under your son's name. Uncle Sam takes it personally, and they audited her. Discovered $12,000 in unreported income over 18 months. Back taxes, fines, and interest north of $8,000. Word spread like wildfire. Her supporters dropped faster than a bad rodeo clown. Meanwhile, back at Pinewood Estates, The new HOA board was on a mission to clean house. They reviewed every past meeting, scrubbed the minutes, and posted a public apology on their Facebook page. We, the HOA board, acknowledged that Tina Mallory acted outside the authority of the association. We apologize to Mr. Colton Briggs and the greater community for the disruption caused. I damn near fell off my porch swing when I read it. An apology from the HOA. Hell must have froze over? They didn't stop there. Carol called a special meeting to finalize parking agreements, formalize property boundary respect, and most importantly, vote on Tina's permanent ban from holding office in Pinewood Estates. 43 out of 47 households showed up. That's the kind of turnout usually reserved for free barbecue or tornado warnings. And the vote unanimous. Tina was out, blackballed, banned, persona non grata. They even revoked her HOA membership, which I didn't even know was possible. Turns out if enough people hate your guts, the rulebook starts to bend real flexible. So what did Tina do? She went full scorched earth, called a local radio show, cried about being run out of her home by a misogynistic ranch mafia, tried to start a GoFundMe titled Help a Single Mom Fight Rural Bullying. It raised $92, and I'm pretty sure $50 of that was from her cousin. She tried filing a civil suit against me for emotional distress, but after seeing the HOA's new disclosures plus the IRS letters, the judge threw it out so hard it left a dent in the courthouse floor. By July, her house was officially in foreclosure. I watched from across the fence as a U-Haul pulled up and she loaded up the same clipboard she'd once used like a weapon. No HOA titles, no signatures to chase, no followers, just Tina, alone. She didn't wave goodbye. I didn't expect her to. Carol took over HOA leadership for real, ran meetings like a drill sergeant who'd finally gotten her hands on a megaphone. The board became shockingly competent. They even asked me to be an unofficial consultant on local land use issues. I said, as long as I don't gotta wear slacks or stop cussing, I'll think about it. We agreed. No slacks. Cussin' allowed. The $300 per month per house parking agreement. Held strong. Brought in $11,000 a month. We used it to fix the gravel road. Add solar lights near the shared lot. Fund an AGED program at the local high school. Suddenly, instead of complaining about cow smells, folks were asking if their kids could come bottle feed calves for class credit. And me, I was back to doing what I do best. Fixing fences, raising beef, and watching the sunset from a porch that faced no HOA. Some folks might say I was too hard on Tina. But here's the thing. I didn't start this. I didn't file complaints. I didn't start petitions. I didn't weaponize Facebook or misuse community funds. She did, and I didn't respond with fists or threats or Facebook drama. I responded with facts, with law, with one hell of a surveyor. And when it was over, the truth stood taller than her clipboard ever did. Sunset hits different when you've earned it. I was sitting on my porch with my boots up and a cold Lone Star in hand, staring out over 500 acres of Texas land that had taken beating after beating and still stood proud. Cows grazed along the west fence line. Windmill squeaked lazy in the breeze. Somewhere out there, a kid from Pinewood Estates was bottle feeding a calf named Karen. Yeah, that's what they named her. Swear to God. Been a year now since the whole Tina fiasco. Feels longer. But time works funny when you spend it under open sky. You start measuring life by fence posts and calving seasons instead of court dates and Facebook drama. You know what surprised me most? The silence. No more fake inspections. No SUVs blocking my gate. No HOA foot soldiers taking notes like they were building a case for CSI Suburbia. Just peace, and cows. And the occasional neighbor bringing over pie to say thanks for standing my ground. Sometimes I wonder what the hell all that fight was really about. I mean, on the surface. It was zoning laws, easements, boundary lines, legal rights. But underneath it was identity. See, folks like Tina, They move out here wanting the aesthetic of the country without any of the grit. They want cowboy boots in the mud for Instagram, not because that's the only damn way to cross a field after a rain. They want quiet, sure, but not if that quiet includes mooing or a chainsaw at 6 a.m. They want rural charm with Starbucks on the corner, and then they look at a guy like me wearing the same hat for 20 years. Calluses on my hands, dust in my lungs, and they don't see someone who belongs. They see a problem, something to be cleaned up, managed, removed. But here's the truth. I'm not the problem. I'm the reason their houses have power, water, and beef in the freezer. I'm the reason their roads were paved before they even moved in. And that's not bragging. That's just facts. Texas wasn't built by HOAs. It was built by folks like my granddaddy, who came home from war and turned hard dirt into something that fed families. Folks like my dad, who taught me how to fix fence with baling wire and curses. Folks like me who've spent more mornings with cows than people, and like it that way. You know what legacy really is? It ain't your last name in fancy cursive on a granite slab. It's the creak in your knees from years of work. It's the oak tree your family planted 3 generations ago, still throwing shade on the porch. It's the day your neighbor's kid comes by and says, "Hey, Mr. Briggs, I want to learn how to raise cattle like you." And you say, "All right, kid, grab a shovel, we're starting with shit." Carol Jenkins asked me to speak at the first Pinewood Ranch Day this spring. Brought in a bounce house, barbecue, even a little petting zoo setup. I told her I don't do speeches. She said, "Just talk like you're sitting on your porch." So I did. Told them about how this land was bought in 1943 for less than a new truck cost today. How we damn near lost it twice, once to drought, once to development greed. How my granddad made me promise never to sell to someone who doesn't know what a fence line is. And how proud I was that, in the end, the community chose truth over tantrums. They clapped. Hell, a few teared up. I didn't, though. Too much dust in the air. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I still keep Tina's original complaint letter. Not out of spite. Just to remind me what ignorance and arrogance look like when they show up with a clipboard. That thing's framed in my tool shed right next to the survey map that proved we own every damn inch she tried to steal. It's a hell of a contrast, hanging side by side. One built on hot air, the other on generations of boots and dirt. People ask if I'd do anything different. Maybe I could have been nicer, more diplomatic. But diplomacy don't work when the other side ain't listening, just waiting to stab you with your own pen. Nah. I stood my ground. Didn't flinch. Didn't fold. And now, when I walk into town, people nod. Say, "Mornin'. Buck." And they mean it. Even the ones who used to think I was the problem. So yeah, this land's still mine. My cattle still shit where they please. The sunrise still hits that barn roof just right. And the only thing HOA about my place is the sign on the gate, "Hell Outta Area." You want to know the real moral of this story? It ain't about zoning or fences or legal footnotes. It's this: don't ever let somebody who just got here tell you what belongs. You want to live in Texas? You better learn to live with Texas. That means dust. That means noise. That means cattle. And it damn sure means men like me. Because when you try to erase a legacy with a clipboard, you better be ready for a reckoning written in barbed wire, not ink. And if you're lucky, we might just invite you over for brisket when it's all said and done. But bring your own beer. I ain't running a charity. Let this be a lesson to every HOA board, Karen, or clipboard warrior out there. You don't get to rewrite history just because you moved in last week. You mess with a rancher's land. You better be ready for every inch of barbed wire justice coming your way. And for the rest of y'all, if you've ever been bullied by some self-appointed neighborhood dictator, drop your story in the comments. We're building a whole damn wall of receipts. Hit that subscribe button, because next time, we're covering the HOA president who tried to fine a veteran for flying the American flag. This ain't over. This is just Texas. Baby,